It's a new Blood Donut Studios talk show. Today we're talking Marvel Comics, the first appearance of Grand Admiral Thrawn, and Tales of the Jedi. All this and more on the premiere episode of R2-BD. Alright.
Let's get going.
Here we go. We are here.
New project time.
New project, new us. Not
new us.
It's the same us. It's the same us. We're here. Yeah. Well, look at us. We're doing all right.
Yeah.
We're doing okay. We're here. Hi, friends. Hello.
Yes. Hi.
Hello. First time viewers. My name is Joey.
I'm Jacob.
This is weird.
This is a little weird.
I'm almost ready to start doing like the Star Trek intro. Wait, look.
Okay, yeah, some context, I suppose.
Of the Star franchises, it would seem, I guess, to those that have been watching this channel, that we are Star Trek fans first. Little did they know. I guess they probably know.
They probably know.
We like Star Wars. We really like Star Wars.
It is our first love.
Yeah. This is our little idea. This is R2-BD. For those in the know, that's R2 unit blood donut. So,
yes.
You know, now you're in the know.
Now you're in the know. Now everyone's in the know.
It's a big secret. It's a big secret.
Don't tell anybody.
It's a big secret. This is our idea. I think, like, I don't know. It always kind of comes back to Star Wars with us, doesn't it?
Always.
Always. It's just, I don't know. Actually, this is a pretty good first topic, I guess. I don't know. Why we love Star Wars. It's kind of like always been part of our lives, hasn't it?
Yes. I mean, I can't remember a time, like, it's very funny and probably very generic as a sentence, but I can't remember when I wasn't a fan.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I watched a Star Wars channel. You probably know exactly who I'm talking about. There's a guy on it that says that, like, he literally, like, his earliest memories, like, he cannot remember a time when he, like, of watching, like, the original trilogy for the first time. He can't even remember it because it's been part of his life for that long. That's kind of how I feel, except one of my earliest memories is watching Return of the Jedi for the first time. Although specifically Return of the Jedi. I'm pretty sure it was my first Star Wars movie.
I know we've had this conversation, and I think that's right, though
yeah.
I can't specifically remember to know for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just kind of like always been with us. It's always been here, and I don't know. I love talking about it, obviously.
Honestly, we've especially had some fairly deep conversations about Star Wars lately.
We really do. And that's probably the reason this show exists.
Probably.
We just love talking about it, and so this is going to be a bit different from like other things that we kind of do on the channel. It's not going to be like a really organized discussion, though we do have like talking points. We read and watched some specific things for this episode.
We prepped some specific things to talk about.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, it's going to be a pretty loose conversation.
Yeah.
There are going to be tangents
where we're talking about nothing even close to the things prepared.
Yeah. But I don't know. It should be fun. It should be fun to fun to do. I don't know. I guess we'll see. It's I don't know. This is kind of like the Star Wars project I've kind of like always wanted to do, just to like sit and talk, because I just love talking about Star Wars. But I guess on that topic, what are we talking about today? What is the structure? If there is one, what is the structure of this show?
That's an excellent question.
So we have we've split up like the Star Wars things that we'll be talking about, I guess, into like 3 categories. We're going to talk about a visual medium thing, that is movie or TV show, or video game.
Or video game,
I suppose. Yes, we can do video games. We're going to do a comic. Comic is just a comic. There are lots of Star Wars comics out there.
Literally any comic.
And we have not read many of them. So yeah, that's probably like our biggest Star Wars blind spot, isn't it? Is Star Wars comics.
It is.
And
kind of the next one, though, we're both a little more familiar with this next one.
Well, so our third category for each episode, we're choosing a book. Visual medium, comic, and book. Book also includes like audiobook or audio drama. If there's like a perform medium, like I would say like it falls into that category, because typically actually when they do the occasional audio drama, they release the script as well, so it sort of counts as a book. I think it falls into that category personally.
They're close enough. that it's fine. Like,
yeah.
we roll with it.
And usually the occasional Star Wars audio drama that does exist is just written by one of the many Star Wars book regulars.
Yeah.
Usually it's Kevin Scott.
Yeah, Kevin Scott's a big name there.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's what this is. Jacob, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about a lot of origin points, really.
Yeah. And oddly enough, it's weird. The book kind of like being the thing, obviously the book being the thing that we dedicate sort of the most time to in prep for this.
Right.
It's going to take the longest to read, longer than the comic. It's going to take longer, certainly, than watching a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah.
But we've chosen all sort of like things that are sort of close to each other. I don't think we're going to theme every episode.
No, just this first one's really the heaviest themed, I imagine.
Yeah. Although probably I'll try to connect two things at least.
I imagine, if nothing else, the book and comic will be related to each other, if nothing else in theme.
Yeah. Or if they don't relate, I guess we could connect like whatever we're watching to like
one or the other.
Yeah, that could work. But yeah, today specifically, for our visual thing, I don't know. I was kind of... This is the thing I was racking my brain the most on, like, where to begin with. But we decided to sit down and watch the original Star Wars, 1977. Without special effects or anything.
Well, without new special effects.
Without new special... Yeah, without the updated effects. Because, first of all, I just hadn't done that in a while. And I know, obviously, neither of you.
Right.
I think you even longer than I have.
Easily.
And then for our comic, we chose the first volume of the newer Marvel Star Wars run in 2015. The first volume is called Skywalker Strikes. We're going to take a little break in between that and our third one to talk about some current Star Wars things that I think might be cool to bring up. And we're going to finish off talking about Heir to the Empire, which I believe was your first ever Star Wars Legends novel.
Yes.
Which is really cool.
It is... And it's an incredibly interesting book.
Yeah.
It's legends within legends.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's that extra layer of legends before anything, pretty much. And that'll make more sense when we're talking about it, but just, I don't know. I think it's really cool. But yeah, also at the time of recording this, it's worth noting, like, Ahsoka just finished. That is on my mind so heavily now.
The Ahsoka just ended.
Yeah. It is like the only Star Wars thing that I'm focused on. And I was like, oh shit. We're recording this. God damn it. I want to talk about Ahsoka.
That has like nothing to do with anything we prepped.
Nothing to do with it. But yeah, Ahsoka recently ended. We'll probably talk about it at some point. I will also say...
If nothing else, we'll talk about the larger themes, I imagine.
I will also say the visual medium, I think also... We're not going to try to plan out as heavily as like books or comics because... I'd like to leave that spot mostly open for when, like, new shows or movies are releasing. So I don't know what our next thing actually is. It's either Andor Season 2 or maybe Bad Batch Season 3. One of them. Something's coming up. I'm not sure what. But whatever is coming up next, whenever that comes out and whenever we have one of these episodes coming out, we'll reserve that spot for however many episodes are out at that time, and we'll talk about those episodes.
Yeah.
And yeah, that should be fun. I think that'll hopefully work out. I think the hardest part will be trying to like plan that with the release itself.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically like the episode breakup. Like, do we split it up into like half the season or the whole season at once? Like, do we hold off episodes?
I'd say it'll especially be interesting because we also have to read books.
Yeah.
Like, that's the most time-consuming part of this project.
Yeah.
Literally sitting down to listen and or read to a book.
Yeah, exactly. I will also say, on when we're releasing things, this is, as I mentioned already, like probably our most casual conversation thing that we're doing on the channel here on Blood Donut. But also, in that same vein, pretty much, I'd like the release to be kind of casual as well. So we're not going to set like specific dates that these are coming out. I'd like to not at least set specific dates that these are coming out. Although, if I were to guess, odds are we'll be getting one out probably about every month. If I were to guess,
that seems like a fair way to go
maybe
about
we'll
this.
skip a month occasionally, but honestly, it seems pretty fair for the rate at which it took us to like get through everything we're covering on this episode. But we'll see. But yeah, I guess that about does it. That was lovely. I already feel nice and cozy and warmed up and ready. It's nice. Yeah. Also, we have drinks with us here because we plan to. I don't know if we'll actually be here a long time, but I don't know.
We are here with the intention that we will need drinks.
Probably. But yeah. I was gonna take my drink now, but you chose to. So, do we need to vamp? I don't know.
I think we should just get started.
There we go. We're good. All right. Let's start off on Star Wars. This is the story of Star Wars. I can't even call it A New Hope. It's just Star Wars.
It's just Star Wars.
I gotta say, like, the thing that, like, just I kept thinking about as I was getting excited to rewatch this movie before this was that, like, we are so spoiled by the Disney Plus era of things and just the streaming era in general that when you put on Star Wars, you go to like showing Star Wars, they're like, oh, it's on Disney Plus. I'm gonna watch Star Wars on Disney Plus. And it's the newer edition. So we're so spoiled by that, and we're so spoiled by how easy that is to just like be like, oh, this is Star Wars. This is like the special edition is probably the version I've seen the most.
Right. I mean, it's not a complaint either because it lines up most closely with the rest of the franchise.
Yeah,
and lots of other reasons that it's probably the quintessential version.
Yeah. But I hadn't watched the one without special effects for a long time. I can't even remember the last time I watched it, to be honest, without the new special effects.
Wait,
I gotta.
Well, I think we'll all understand what you mean.
You get what I mean, yeah.
Because the Star Wars without special effects would just be a lot of people standing around.
Yeah. Although in the original trilogy's case, it'd probably be more technically impressive because actual sets. It's great. But yeah, I don't know. I found myself really excited leading up to this, and also just that it's because I gotta bring this up. I don't know. I own like 6 different versions of the original trilogy, 2 of which are the despecialized versions.
In 2 different mediums.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's 5, but I kind of count the novels as the novelizations as like a version of the trilogy, if that makes sense. So it's the novels. I own the despecialized on VHS, the despecialized on DVD, the special editions on VHS, the special editions on DVD, and then the Blu-rays, which are the special editions, of course. Which is just so sad. I think that's just really sad, but I don't know. That's my love of Star Wars. I don't know. But yeah.
You're a judge on the obsession level.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, Star Wars, 1977. Where to begin? It's so weird to talk about this movie, a movie that I've seen so many times.
Right, but you took notes, more than both of us would have guessed.
Yeah. They're mostly about the differences between the special edition and the originals. But also just some things that, I don't know, it's also, no matter how many times I've seen Star Wars, I just tend to notice new things. This time, cups.
Okay, this is such a non-conversation.
I love that this is our first talking point. They've always been there. I know they've always been there. They're definitely there in the special edition.
But the Empire has cups.
The Empire has cups. Specifically only supplied to, high-ranking Imperial officers.
And for, meetings.
Yeah. Now, with that, I probably only really took notice to it this time because of the slightly different aspect ratio.
Yeah, it's longer, if you will.
Yeah, you're just genuinely noticing more of the screen because of the different aspect ratio. But just, I don't know. I hadn't taken notice to the cups in the Imperial meeting room before, and that is for some reason the first topic I want to begin on. So, yeah, cups.
It's the most mundane topic, I'd say.
But it's cups. I don't know. That's literally one of my notes here.
I think amusingly we kept an eye out for in every other meeting room
scene.
Scene.
Yeah. But it's only in that one. It's only in the one scene. Afterwards, when Vader and Tarkin are talking about Obi-Wan and whatever, and in the room, it's just no, they're not there. It's just for the meeting. It's like us. We're supplied with drinks. Finally, we gotta start bringing drinks to our regular recordings. Anyway, God damn it. But yeah, on the different aspect ratio, did that take you out of it at all?
After the film got proper, started proper, not really.
I think honestly the most distracting thing is probably just the opening crawl.
Oh, sure. Because
the opening crawl is this massive, giant yellow words floating through space, and you watch it with the different aspect ratio. It's okay, no, they're not taking up as much space. They're not giant anymore. Well, they're still giant.
They're still pretty big, but
yeah, just weird.
There's a lot more gap. And after the phone gets going, you kind of tune it out.
Yeah. As you do with any, abnormal aspect ratio, But it's not even that abnormal. It was just of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Also something I guess I'd never noticed before. Is Vader's dialogue more echoey in the originals?
I remember I pointed that out, too. It sounded a little different somehow.
Yeah, it just feels like they cut down on the reverb in the special editions.
Or maybe they tightened the effect.
I don't know.
I guess we just made the same point, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Just whatever. I always love watching Star Wars after there's like watching the original Star Wars after there's like some new piece of canon or whatever, or like a new book that I read that came out. Just, I don't know. I love rewatching it because you just see where certain things about the wider world of Star Wars begin. Just small mentions of things like the spice mines of Kessel, things like that. That gets mentioned twice in the movie.
Yes.
That, like, I don't know. They don't mean anything.
No, and in Star Wars, they could say the Flingleflars of anywhere.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
The planet's called anywhere. Yeah,
it actually doesn't matter.
Yeah. But then like somebody decides to go and be like, well, okay, what are the Flingleflars of anywhere? And then and then you find out. You're like, okay, that's what C-3PO was talking about. That's it. You know, it's just, I don't know. It's one of those things that I always love about Star Wars. Just it takes its world building so seriously. And it can seem obsessive, and you know, it's. I'm gonna try to get through most of these episodes without uttering the words glup shitto, but like it's apt.
It creates them.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so like, you know, I guess it's not as apt as, you know, a random character from a novel showing up in a movie, but it's like something like the Spice Mines of Kessel, like showing up in Solo and whatever. You see that and you're like, oh, okay, oh shit, that's the thing that I know, and it seems like a stupid, like, pedantic nerd thing, but also like it's one of those cool world building moments that I just love observing and just seeing them actually expand upon it. It's really nice.
And it's also worth noting, like, yeah, we watched the original, but like, I'm also obviously familiar with like newer Star Wars things that have come out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, say, Rogue One.
Yeah.
And, like, you see Star Wars, the opening of Star Wars, like, and I was like, okay, if I'm watching this in the 70s, this is just the opening of the film.
Yeah.
But if I'm watching this after just watching Rogue One,
mm-hmm.
that the claim of diplomatic mission, it makes no sense.
You were so funny in that scene. That scene was going on. Leia's like on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan, and you as Vader, you're like, I saw you leave. I
was in the hallway, but watching you go.
But another one of those beautiful retroactive things that makes the performance work is James Earl Jones's delivery back is so fucking sassy. He's like, come on, it's so good. I love it.
So like, it's got two different mindsets. Both are equally amusing.
Yeah. And another, again, just little like world building things like the Krayt Dragon, the skeleton of the Krayt Dragon that 3PO passes.
Yeah.
You know, like just watching that for the first time, would you make the connection that dead dragon is the sound that Obi-Wan's making when he frightens off the Tusken Raiders?
At least not immediately.
Like you wouldn't think that really, would you? But then then you see that thing in like The Mandalorian. That dragon shows up. It makes a similar sound. It's that. That's it. That's the connection.
That's you knowing for sure what that is.
Yeah. And like I'm not saying that like The Mandalorian is the first thing to say that, obviously, but just having that specifically, I guess in something that is going to reach a much wider audience, like a piece of visual Star Wars media,
and not some tidbit in a book that says Obi-Wan did the Krayt Dragon sound.
Yeah. Oh, it's great.
Which is also different in this version.
Yeah. Oh, it's so different. You know, I love that. And that's another one of those things. It's just like, you know, which version of the movie is like technically canon, you know? Like which one is it? It's just,
I usually assume not that it matters in all practical meaning.
It's probably the special edition.
It is always the most updated version.
Yeah, I guess. But whatever. Another thing I have down is just, I don't know. There's just certain times when I watch this and I think like, I don't know. Okay, actually, small tangent. Probably a big tangent.
Probably a big tangent, but go on.
But like the idea of a Star Wars what if show is something that's constantly thrown around.
Yes.
Especially with the advent of the MCU what if show happening, which like I get the want for it. You know,
it would be interesting to see situations play out
because the Star Wars universe is a universe built on like the butterfly effect, you know, little tiny details building up to this grand scale war. You know, so one of the things that I just find myself pondering on is just like, I don't know, Luke applying to the Academy. He'd pretty much be part of the Empire, even though he hates it. You know, how would that end up? Things like that. Things like that I just love considering about Star Wars. It's just really cool.
It would have a very interesting butterfly effect because if you consider the rest of the story, which no one was doing in 1977,
mm-hmm.
you would Like, there's the rebellion, how it plays out. Would Vader find out that Luke is his son?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
there's these questions that no one was considering
Mm-hmm.
when the line was written, I want to be in the Academy.
Yeah, I want to be in the Academy. But then later on, Luke was like, I don't like the Empire, I hate it. So, like, would Luke, like, from the inside of the Academy, like, be doing some weird rebellion shit on the inside? Like, what would be happening?
Or would he, like, kind of fall for it?
Luke is very aware of the conflict between the Empire and the Rebellion.
Yeah, he sees the battle in a deleted scene.
Yeah. You know what? That's the thing that I brought up a couple times as we were rewatching this. It just, of all the things that you could have thrown in the special edition, you decided to still keep out the Luke and Biggs scene that I love so much. I love that scene. Because Biggs dies later on in the film, and it's just like, I don't know, that doesn't carry as much meaning because we don't know Luke and Biggs' relationship. But on the other hand, also, like, Luke knows people in the Rebellion. Like, what would he be doing inside the Academy? I don't know.
Would he essentially... Was his plan to always be a spy? The movie never says these things.
Yeah. But again, like, that wonderful Star Wars thing is just, like, chance made it so that... maybe it's not chance. It's fate. The Star Wars universe is all about fate.
The Force moves everything where it should go.
Yeah.
That's why the concept of a what if is kind of amusing.
Yeah. It's just like, it's amusing, yeah, because, like, little things can change it, but also the idea is that...
These things were always going to happen.
Yeah, it's always going to happen. The Force is always going to find a way to balance itself out. Somebody could come in, somebody like, say, Darth Maul, could come in and try to fuck up the balance of the dark side and the light and try to, like, warn people of what's coming in the Clone Wars, but also the Force could say, fuck you, nobody's going to believe you. You're going to be this reclusive hermit living on a planet filled with ancient Sith relics. You know?
Right. Like, Darth Maul could have come prepared with the world's greatest PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka would still look at it and go, I don't believe you, though.
Exactly, yeah. The idea of the Force as a character in Star Wars makes it so that the concept of a what if Star Wars show just is kind of it makes it stupid because it's just like, no, you're not really considering like what would have happened because the fact of the matter is it was always going to happen. Just a cool idea.
It's a very deterministic way to look at everything that goes down.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't necessarily feel wrong.
Yeah. I don't know. I love that. You know what I also love?
What else do you love?
I fucking love Alec Guinness in this movie.
Oh, he is...
Dude, they're
phenomenal.
When I'm in the right mood, and I think I was just for this specific viewing, watching Alec Guinness again is like fucking magic. Like, he is so wonderful. I have to kind of keep reminding myself that he doesn't care about the movie.
Oh, no way.
He doesn't care about it. And I also just love watching those Alec Guinness interviews where during the release of Star Wars, he's like, oh man, the script is so ass, man. He's like...
But go see it.
Go see it. No, seriously, like, he is actively promoting it because on one hand, he's like, it's bad, it's a bad script, it's bad dialogue. George Lucas is a bit of a shit writer. Good director, you know, he's got some decent credits behind him, but just a shit writer. But he says in those interviews, he's always like, there is just something so charming about it, though. He's like, I read the script, it's not a good script, it's bad, but I just kind of had to keep going. Something about it was just so compelling. And you know, and he wasn't the only one. We all know that, like, Mark Hamill just showed the full script to all of his friends. Look at this piece of shit. Look at this stupid dialogue I have to say.
It's almost famous, like, on its own.
Yeah, exactly. But for some reason, just Alec Guinness is fucking magic in this movie. Maybe it also has something to do with John Williams.
I think John Williams...
That beautiful little twinkly sound that he gives Obi-Wan when he's in a scene.
But I also think it just shows that Alec Guinness is truly just an absolute professional.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't necessarily believe in the script. But he gave it his all. Like, it was like his life depended on it. That's
why a line like when he's talking to Luke about his father. Or no, he's talking about Vader. He's talking to Luke about Vader, and he says, like, he's a pupil of mine. He was a good friend. When Alec Guinness says that, he speaks with this wistfulness of nostalgia and melancholy,
and you believe it.
Yeah,
it's easy to read.
It's something like that. Like when Obi-Wan says, not just Alec Guinness, you know, the old guy who's getting a paycheck. You know, when he's saying, like, you know, he was a good friend, like, you know that his performance makes it so that Obi-Wan is looking back on his life and you're just thinking of those great memories with his lost friend Anakin.
It's really easy to read everything we know about Star Wars now onto that scene.
Yeah.
But if you remove all that, it still works just as well.
It's just as good, yeah, because Alec Guinness for some reason, so fully dedicated himself, not even dedicated himself to the role. He's just doing a job. He dedicated himself to the story, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Because he bought the story, not the script.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just...
Because he had to look at the story. Something kept him going. It had to be that the story was just so wonderfully, simply nice.
It's simple. It's simple, yeah.
I mean, they literally blow a big thing and presumably happy times occur.
Yeah. It captures the imagination. And that's the wonder of Star Wars when someone watches it for the first time. When someone that is, is interested in it watches it for the first time, right. I should say.
If you showed if you showed someone who hates Star Wars and they begrudgingly agreed, they'd be like, okay.
Yeah, they're not getting invested in that moment or that scene. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It captures me every time. And for some reason, especially this time. I don't know. It works. Oh man, more of that wonderful world building that I have in here about the Senate being dissolved and the Old Republic gone. That happens in 2 lines, man.
Yeah. There is a Senate, boom, it's gone.
That happens in 2 fucking lines.
Who controls everything? Oh, just governors now.
Yeah.
Who do they report to? Presumably the Emperor.
Well, he says, yeah, we get a tiny mention of the Emperor in this movie. He's like, the Emperor has dissolved the Senate. The last remnants of the Old Republic are gone.
Because, really think about it. If all you know in this film is every character you just physically see, who's the Emperor?
Yeah, who's this dude?
It's clearly not the big dude in black.
Yeah. And again, and it's one of those things that, like, it's worth noting, actually. I'm not going to go all into it, but we read this Twitter thread recently.
Yes.
About world building in Star Wars, and world building in general, but world building in Star Wars specifically. And it's tiny details that, like, technically mean nothing, but if the audience is actively engaging with the story, they're thinking about those lines.
Right, like, the Senate has been dissolved. Well, holy crap, how powerful is this Emperor dude?
You're just talking about the government in your world?
Just gone.
Yeah. Like, and it happens all off screen. But because we heard those lines and our imaginations ran wild, we still don't see anything of the government. In the Empire, at least. In the original trilogy.
Literally everyone in the Empire we see, in Episode 4, most of the original trilogy, if not all of it, is just the military.
Yeah.
It's just the military branch.
The most politically important person we see in the original trilogy is the Emperor. And also, I guess, those guys he was hanging out with on the Death Star.
Who are in a scene.
I think they were part of, his personal advisory council.
They're the new council for him.
Yeah.
Which were really funny to notice for the first time.
Yeah. And in that same scene, I don't know, this whole scene just always captures me. Just the world building in it, and the cups. It's just...
Yeah, that's the scene with the cups, for reference.
It's the scene with the cups. Everyone knows the scene with the cups. It's, I had to quote it. It's one of my favorite lines in Star Wars. It's the sad devotion to that ancient religion. That one guy that sees Vader as, like, this fucking crackpot in the corner. He's like,
the guy on conspiracy forums saying the world is gonna end 10 years ago.
Yeah. Vader comes in and basically says that he's like, this technological terror is nothing compared to the power of the Force. This dude comes in and it says, don't try to frighten us with your sorcerous ways, Lord Vader. Your sad devotion to that ancient religion hasn't allowed you to conjure up stolen data tape. Blah, 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 blah. You get the fucking idea. Like, we all know the dialogue.
So Vader Force chokes him. And he
says, I find your lack of faith disturbing. Look.
This is a conversation we've been having a lot lately.
We've been having this conversation a lot lately. The Force is a religion.
And people, more so in the High Republic era of Star Wars, which we're not going to delve into.
We're not talking about that today, although we have been doing a lot of High Republic stuff recently. And it's so good.
It's just worth pointing out that the High Republic era in general has been good at showing other Force cults and religions.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I just love that idea that, like, the Force is a religion. Star Wars as a franchise shows the Force as being like a sort of one true religion sort of thing, but also there are different ways of interpreting it.
Like, the Force is something anyone can tap into, and this is something you see in other pieces of media.
Mm-hmm.
High Republic, not High Republic, you get the point.
Yeah.
Where they're not the Jedi, they're not the Sith. You could be just a random Force-sensitive dude who isn't part of anything.
Mm-hmm.
But you know how to use the Force if you've trained to lift up a cup, for example.
Exactly.
You're not part of any religion.
Yeah.
You're just using a force of nature at that point.
Yeah. It takes belief to do.
Sure, you have to believe the Force can be used.
Yeah. Yeah. And like with real life religions, like with different ways of interpreting religions and different religions existing in our world, there aren't just different religions. There are also just people that don't believe in any religion. And it brings me to one of my favorite characters in Star Wars.
On to the atheist of Star Wars.
Han fucking Solo, who since I was a child has been my favorite Star Wars character ever. I love this man. Who just, I don't know, who captures me every time. His arc is beautiful, especially in this first movie. And something that it's a more conversation, I guess, for when we were talking about the comic. But again, let the conversation flow freely, I guess. Han by the end of this movie still doesn't believe in the Force
because he hasn't seen it demonstrated.
Yeah, he believes in the rebellion. He believes in hope. He believes in taking down the Empire by the end, but he doesn't believe in the Force. Because
as far as Han saw in the film in general, anytime the Force was used to do something, he wasn't there.
Yeah, he wasn't. Was the Force ever used in front of him?
Besides deflecting the laser bolt from the little shooty droid.
But Luke doesn't actually even do that.
I think he hits one.
Yeah, it's weird. He doesn't actually even then. Lucky shot, Han doesn't believe in any of that. He doesn't see the Force used, and even then, it's not even a seeing is believing thing because he sees Luke make that shot without a targeting computer at the end.
Yeah, again, Luke probably just got a lucky shot to him.
Yeah, yeah.
There is no demonstrative proof that happened, which carries into the comic, which we will talk about.
Yeah. I love that. I love that idea. And also, Han's a fucking bastard. And that's one of the best things about this movie, specifically the original cut, because, Han shot first and all that.
Just because he wanted to.
Because he's an ass. Because Han Solo's a fucking asshole. It's great. I don't know. Something about his character just always grabs me. He's wonderful. Anyway. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Stupid little world building thing again. I swear this is most of my notes, but I love watching little things in Star Wars just expand the universe in insane ways. The Talls showing up in the cantina.
Yeah, they're clearly just a random alien.
Yeah, but they have an entire Clone Wars episode dedicated to themselves.
It's really interesting, and it's really cool to see them. It's actually really interesting to just picture how a race of Yeti essentially that evolved and lived on an ice planet is so casually just they're just hanging out, sipping a drink on a desert planet.
They're in the cantina. They're hanging out in there. That's what that Clone Wars episode is about. Is the beginnings of the Talls wanting to hang out in the desert. That's it. Oh man, actually, I mentioned John Williams briefly, but we gotta talk about John Williams, the absolute legend that he is. Brilliant music, always. But you know what actually is just one of my absolute favorite pieces in this whole movie, is when Owen and Beru are dead. That track in particular, it's one of those perfect moments in this movie where Luke's entire character arc comes to a head for that one moment. You see that. You establish through all of his dialogue with Obi-Wan that pretty much the only thing holding him back in this place is his uncle and aunt,
because he feels he needs to help them, regardless of how much he doesn't want to be there.
And as cruel as it is, the best way to get him to not stay on Tatooine anymore is to just get rid of his uncle and aunt. It's really horrible. It's really, really horrible. But Williams' music sells that moment. In how dark that theme gets when Luke sees his family dead and looks up. Just those last couple chords, which actually I think leads directly into a Death Star scene. I think that's the interrogation scene after that with Leia, right?
I think.
Yeah. Because I could picture the music, the dun 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 dun.
Yes.
Yeah, it's that music. But anyway. Fucking Star Wars, man. It lives in my head. It is an active entity inside my mind. Anyway, Obi-Wan's a professional limb remover. He is. It's how far-reaching is the consequence of this one moment where he chops off a dude's arm? That like we've made him so adept at removing limbs that it is the way he wins the most climactic battle of his life. It's crazy. I don't know. I just I love that. Oh man. Road boating thing, Corellian ships get mentioned, which I'm pretty sure was even before it was established that Han was from Corellia, which I think is cool.
But again, it's just this nice thing that'll come around a lot in reality.
Yeah.
Like the planet and its ship's mines.
Oh man, and you know what? I love the Elephant Man. The Elephant Imperial spy dude.
Yes.
I don't even know his name. He probably has a name.
He probably's got a name.
I don't know his name. But I just love that. That there's just... that the Empire has spies that don't look like stormtroopers, don't look like Imperial officers, don't look like bounty hunters.
And more importantly, they're not human.
Yeah, he's just a guy watching out for the Empire. We never see the moment where the Empire tells him to, like, you know, keep an eye out for any suspicious activity. This guy is probably working for the Empire and is already here in Mos Eisley. And he happens to be looking out for this.
And I think it's important. It's something that you know about Star Wars through more knowledge of it, I suppose. But, like, if you're deeper into Star Wars and Imperial knowledge, you know they don't usually do stuff with aliens.
Yeah.
It's all humans, generally.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that they have one alien spy
mm-hmm.
that can walk around anywhere and never be assumed to be part of the Empire
mm-hmm.
is important.
A kind of person that the Empire would probably hate.
Yeah.
Like...
I mean, they probably do hate them.
It's probably... I mean, like... It's gotta be like some sort of allegory, right? That the Empire is entirely made up of humanoids.
Oh, it's gotta be.
Or humans, specifically.
Yeah, not even humanoids, just humans.
Like, that's gotta mean something, right? That's gotta say something larger. The fact that, you know, the Empire's based on the Nazis, that's gotta say something. And the fact that they're using someone like that Imperial spy to their advantage, I really, really love. And once again, just as long as your audience is engaging with the material that's on screen, you can make so many inferences and continue to expand on the world just by yourself, just by imagining things about the world, let alone the fact that we see these things throughout the rest of the Star Wars universe.
Because, I mean, if you're an observant viewer, you see the Imperial spy, like, how often do you think, oh god, is there one around?
Yeah. And just that little moment just, like, kind of, like, puts you on your toes. You're like, okay, well... how many Imperial spies are out there? It's really interesting. I love that. And how many people would sell themselves out for the Empire?
I mean, Luke almost did.
Yeah, how many people under like the threat of death would be like, I would rather help this evil fascist dictatorship than lose my own life or my friends or family.
I imagine a lot.
Crazy. I love that. Oh man, Rogue One's a great movie. You know that? Oh man, that moment when Tarkin is like, I have chosen to test the Death Star on your home planet of Alderaan. Oh, what a bastard. I love that.
It is.
I have chosen to test the Death Star for the first time myself. You cunt. You asshole.
It is absolutely the kind of revisionist history he would do.
Yeah. Oh, I love him. What a brilliant character. Oh, I love Tarkin. And I love Director Krennic. We gotta watch Rogue One. Well, actually, you know what? Do that like around the same time Andor Season 2 comes out.
That's a good idea.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun to do. I love Rogue One so much.
Rogue One's such a good film.
So good. I also just love Star Wars. I've said that so many times throughout this, but truly, like, it's so hard to put into words why I love something like Star Wars. But it has to be something to do with like that. The thing I've been talking about a lot in this conversation is just the expansion of the universe, the constant world building that it does. Star Wars is this living mythology that is continuing to expand in ways that the franchise itself could have never predicted. It continues to live and breathe in ways that someone like George Lucas could never have imagined when he wrote this movie, you know?
Sure, George Lucas was a creative guy.
Yeah.
But I doubt he would say look at the Ahsoka show and go, I planned that.
Yeah. And for some reason, and I'm not going to spoil Ahsoka if you haven't seen it, because I imagine it's still pretty new by the time we're releasing this.
Yeah, so we're not going to do spoilers.
Yeah, but just the way that ends is this beautifully satisfying moment for Ahsoka's character, for the people around her, on a shot that parallels a very important moment in her life. And when that scene happened in the Clone Wars, nobody could have predicted that it would end in the specific way that it just did.
Mm-hmm.
And that simultaneously it is both an ending and a new beginning, and could expand into so many bigger and greater things.
It's that butterfly effect.
Yeah.
It's the fact that that decisions are made constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are more, meta, as in they're, our world decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Ahsoka not being killed off in the Clone Wars, for example.
Yeah.
Leads...
George.
Yeah, George.
George.
Leads into everything that happens to her later.
Yeah. You know what, man? Fucking... all these people that are like, put George Lucas back in charge of Star Wars. First off, he doesn't want it. But even if he did want it, Ahsoka would be dead in an instant.
she'd be dead retroactively years ago.
Yeah. she died in the Battle of Yavin. Anyway. Oh, man. For as bad, quote unquote, as the script is, so many lines are hit so hard. I have written down here the millions of voices cry out in terror line after Alderaan is destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh god, brilliant line. And it's just those moments that, like, everyone jokes about how horrible the dialogue is, but something like that comes in, it's just like, was it an accident? Did he do it by mistake? Like, did George just every now and then think of like a ridiculously iconic line? Or was he just like, oh yeah, that's bad too? Like,
he had some sudden stroke of brilliance.
Yeah.
And then it ended just as quickly.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't know. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Speaking of crazy things, I'm sure there are rules to it. Does that stop motion board game have rules?
We've joked about this, as I'm sure everyone else has.
There's probably a way to learn it, like 4D chess,
Right, but the thing is, you could theoretically figure out 4D chess. We have literally never seen that game be explained start to finish.
I've never seen 4D chess explained start to finish.
No, but...
Chewie and R2 are basically playing a tabletop RPG. That's all it is. Or more a war game, I guess.
It's more of a war game, yeah.
It's pretty easy to figure out. I don't know how you do it on that small a board.
I know, right? Like there seems to be a lot of players involved in reality.
Yeah. I don't know. I love that. Oh man, so actually, on great dialogue, I have another great line written down, and again, you know what? The two lines I'm calling out now are both said by Alec Guinness. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's Alec Guinness. The whole "you've taken your first step into a larger world." I love that. Just another great line. Yeah. Also, let's talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi, the series.
Okay, sure.
A presence I've not felt since about 9 years ago.
Give or take.
About 9 years ago.
When I was not an old man.
Yep. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. Now, Obi-Wan the series actually does do like a whole like workaround with that specific line.
Like they specifically play on it so it makes sense.
Yeah, that's that whole flashback about how until you learn to let go of that, you'll always be a student still.
Yeah.
Just, okay, that makes sense. But even then, like, it's just, there are so many lines in the original trilogy specifically that you just kind of have to ignore when you consider the larger Star Wars universe.
I think, remember, there was a lot longer a time period in, like, the back of George's mind between, like, the Clone Wars and this.
Yeah, he wasn't, when he wrote about the Clone Wars and decided that, he would eventually make movies about Anakin as a child, like, he was like, Darth Vader's like fucking 50, man.
Right.
Wait, actually, is he? Is he 50? He might be 50. He might be 50, actually.
He might be 50.
You know what? Yeah. So the time period is right, I guess. But maybe he imagined that the fall of the Jedi happened way earlier than 19 years ago.
Which is why I like the line, that ancient religion.
That ancient religion, yeah.
Like, we're talking...
But then I guess, like, if people stop practicing Christianity right now, maybe 19 years later, relatively, we would be saying that ancient religion.
And also remember who's saying it. An Imperial.
Yeah, the guys that fucked them over, you know?
Yeah, like, from their...
But also, when you consider the larger Star Wars universe, that guy lived through the time of the Jedi.
Like, he could have been on Coruscant watching them get shot.
Yeah, could have.
I doubt he was.
He wasn't.
But you take my meaning.
Yeah. I find that fascinating. I don't know. That's just super interesting.
Right. Those are the little lines you ignore.
Yeah.
Or you work around.
It's like in Return of the Jedi, when Luke is like, tell me about your mother. Oh, I remember so much about her, like, you know, in the 5 seconds I knew her before she croaked, you know? It's just like, alright, that's, you know, we could wrap our heads around that, sort of, in a way.
It's plausible enough. It's fine, you know?
It's not. We just ignore it. Just ignore it.
It happens.
Oh, man. It's just great. I love mouse droids.
I think everyone does.
I love mouse droids. They're great. I love mouse droids so much. And the first time we ever see one, Chewie just scares the living piss out of one.
Right?
Love it.
I don't even know what they do. Are they like scouts? Are they security?
I don't know. What do mouse droids do?
We watched Star Wars pretty much our whole lives, and we have no idea what mouse droids do.
I don't know what a mouse droid does. I don't think I want to know what a mouse droid does.
I kind
of like to imagine it like lives in like a little like gnome hut with its other mouse droid friends. There's a fireplace. It's like a little tree branch. It's like a tree trunk. They live inside a tree trunk.
And on the Death Star.
Yeah. Yep.
That's kind of funny to picture.
Yes. That's why I said it that way. Anyway, Han is still such a great character. The whole she's rich scene when Han's like, I'm not fucking saving her. Luke knows immediately how to get to him. He's like, she's rich. He's like, I don't know how rich. He's like, I don't know, more than you can imagine. Han's like, I can imagine a lot. It's great.
He's like, start naming zeros.
Yeah, it's so good. It's such a great moment. Again, Han's just such an asshole. That is why the Han shot first debate is so important, though. Like, it gets memed on for the most part nowadays. But
yeah,
it's
not a serious debate anymore.
Yeah, but the Han shot first debate is so important because, yeah, it is the decision between, like, how early on do you say Han is a good person? If Solo a Star Wars story is to be believed, it's a long time ago. But if we just take the original trilogy into account, Han is a pretty bad person in this first movie. So by saying that like he shoots Greedo in self-defense, you kind of take away that edge of the character. Whereas here, like, he shoots Greedo because he's a bad person.
And Greedo tangentially mentions something along the lines of, I could maybe say you weren't here.
Yeah.
I could maybe not kill you right now.
Yeah. But Han just kills him. He just kills him straight up. Han's a bad person. That's what makes his character arc in this first movie so important. I love that. Oh, man. Anyway, Stormtroopers. They disguise themselves with Stormtroopers.
Everyone kind of knows how this goes.
The trash compactor scene is iconic.
What are they standing on? I mean, we talked about this.
I think that's what makes that scene so great, actually, is the fact that, like, you can't really quite tell the depth of the trash compactor water levels. Because
when they're standing, like, when they first land, they're obviously on something pretty solid. Mm-hmm. There's a puddle or two, which kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. But then Luke gets pulled in, like, full force, and they're, like, digging.
Yeah, and they can't find him. Like, just, I don't know, I love the mystery of that scene, that, like, the water levels don't make any sense.
And the best part is, after Luke is brought up for good, mm-hmm. he stands on the spot he was pulled in through.
Yeah. I fucking love that. It's so great. It's great because it makes no sense, oddly enough.
There's still the puddle from which he emerged from.
Yeah. Oh, man, the one thing that's actually better about the special edition is the room full of Stormtroopers gag.
That is better.
I love that scene so much, man. That's
the iconic version of the scene.
Yeah. Like, that feels like it's such a part of Star Wars that I always forget it wasn't in the original. The original mm-hmm. is just this moment where Han's, like, running down this hall. He hits a room where there's, like, squad of Stormtroopers waiting for him. He's like, okay, gotta run back now. No. I love the bit in the special edition when he runs into that room. The room is filled, maximum capacity with Stormtroopers.
Like, they go back further than the camera can reasonably see.
Yeah, it's so funny. I don't know. I love that moment. Oh, man, another one of those beautiful Alec Guinness moments. I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Mm-hmm. What the fuck are you talking about, man?
Dude, like, in this movie, that makes no sense.
Dude.
Until he literally disappears.
Yeah. Fucking crazy. And also the idea that Anakin Skywalker as a character is aware of the Force, very aware of the Force, but he never learns about Force ghosts.
Not that I can ever recall.
Learns that that's even a possibility. Which makes that moment so great when he kills Obi-Wan and like he sees him disappear. Like it's also kind of fun to joke about the fact that Dave Prowse steps on the empty robes, but also like he legitimately has no clue what just happened, how that worked, how Obi-Wan just disappeared.
For all he knows, Obi-Wan might have teleported and is naked somewhere else.
Anakin met and probably saw many Jedi killed in his lifetime. Never saw one disappear as a lightsaber went straight through them.
Right?
Crazy.
He personally killed a lot.
Yeah.
And none of that
happened. That shit never happened.
Like, they were gone. They were physically, you could burn their bodies. Jedi funeral.
Which, man, you gotta wonder if maybe it should have happened. Maybe Yoda should have gone around to more living Jedi post Order 66 and been like, hey guys, you want to learn how to keep going?
Want to learn how to literally poltergeist the Empire?
Dude, could you imagine Yoda and Obi-Wan just amass this army of fucking ghosts? They just watch Vader at the edge of his bed at night. just staring it's the most random ones too. It's fucking what's his name? I can't remember his name now. The dinosaur-looking dude from Attack of the Clones that Django shoots. What's his name? I forgot his name. I always know his name. Damn it. It's Lego figure Jedi Bob at the end there. It's, oh my god. It's so funny.
Just pick any 10 random Jedi. Those are the ones Yoda trained to be like Force ghosts.
Yeah.
And they all watch Vader every night when he's in his tank thing.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that moment when Leia's like, oh, we're being tracked. And Han's like, what? No. And then nobody ever questions it again. Right? They're being tracked. They're being tracked. Like,
how does Han know for sure that they couldn't put a tracker literally anywhere on the ship?
I mean, that's how the climax happens, is because the Death Star finds Yavin 4, because they tracked the fucking Falcon. Like, Leia suggests a very, very possible reality. They're just like, they tracked the they're tracking the Falcon. Nobody was by this ship for a long time.
We're talking, like, in-universe, like an hour or two.
Yeah. They're tracking the ship, and Han's like, just, no, we're good. Like,
they didn't even, like, run a diagnostics just to see. Yeah.
The Star Wars universe isn't planned. But, like...
Go on.
There's that great moment when Han's like, hey, you think a princess and a guy like me? And Han looks like, no. Like, cuts him off, and it's like, no. Nope, never. The Star Wars universe isn't planned, but you look at a moment like that and you're just like, God damn it, fucking, that's great.
That's hilarious for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
And I just love how everything afterwards tries so hard to not make that a possibility.
Yeah.
Like, from the get.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, the comic does it being sort of the most immediate follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, from that moment, they're like, that is, nope.
Nope. Oh, man. You know what, actually, speaking of Han and just how great he is, I love that moment when, first time he gets his reward, and Luke has that great line. He's like, look after yourself, Han, I guess that's what you're best at. Great line.
Yes.
But Han gets his reward, and as him and Luke are parting ways, he says, may the Force be with you, to him. It's like, and again, the Force is a religion, it's like people saying, God bless you. Casually,
yeah.
You know?
It's like
if someone says God bless you to me after I see them, I don't assume they're a fucking Christian, you know?
No.
Or Catholic, or whoever the fuck made it up.
But the point is, even if Han doesn't necessarily believe it,
yeah,
he knows Luke's now a believer.
Yeah, yeah. And like for the most part, like, I don't know. I guess it's more like it's a phrase in the Star Wars universe that has sort of been phased out. Mm-hmm. And it was sort of taken by the rebellion as this, you know, the reign of the Empire began with the extermination of the Jedi. Let's bring their hope back into the galaxy, even if we are not the Jedi ourselves.
Right.
May the Force be with you is something that's so casually said by the rebellion, because it is this sort of reminder that there is hope. And so Han uses that both, first off, because he knows that Luke is now a practicing Jedi, but also. Yeah, but also because it's like, yeah, that's that moment of hope. That's that moment where you see that Han's shell is being cracked. That he's seeing something. He's seeing something in this fight. This movie is a film about faith. It is a film about faith. It's a film about belief, religious belief for the most part, but just faith in general.
Because our primary character is Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, Star Wars as a film is a world without hope and finding hope somewhere in that.
I mean, there's literally a death ball.
Yeah,
floating in space.
When you destroy the death ball, there is hope. Until, of course, the Empire continues to exist after the destruction of the death ball, but that's sequel shit.
Right. As far as this movie is concerned, not important.
Yeah. Oh man, I love Porkins. William Hootkins.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Poor guy. Indeed.
Every Lucasfilm thing he's in, he has to get a name from George Lucas. That's a jab at his weight. It's like, come on. There's this guy in this movie, and there's Major Eaton in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Who is my preferred Major name?
Major Eaton. They called that character Major Eaton. Fucking miserable. I love that guy that offers Tarkin a way out. He's like,
right,
hey,
I know.
He's like, hey man, we're gonna.
The situation's kind of going sideways.
We're all going down, man. You gotta leave. And he's like, Tarkin is like, in our moment of triumph. It's and it's great because it's Peter Cushing, but also just what a dumbass.
Also, again, Star Wars is a series largely defined by fate.
Fate, yeah.
But what do you think everything else would have happened if he was like, you know what? This does appear to be going sideways. Let's go.
I mean, I think, and that's also the problem with a what if Star Wars idea, because it's like, how much canon do you take into account? Because if you're just like, oh yeah, well, what if the trilogy was derailed because Vader still had Tarkin on his side? Okay, there's that. But also, I know in larger Star Wars canon, Tarkin would probably like go to Thrawn and be like, let's maximize our battle strategy. You were right about the Death Star. Let's do something new.
Right.
Or wait, no, he wouldn't.
No, he wouldn't. Thrawn is not.
Holy shit.
Thrawn's. But yeah, I think
okay, here's my problem. We're talking about Heir to the Empire today, so I think I'm half in Legends canon mindset and then half not.
Thrawn. I think specifically
Thrawn's gone already.
Yeah, Thrawn's a non-entity at
Thrawn's
that point.
gone already. Although in Legends, I guess he would have.
Assuming he lived, obviously.
Yeah,
we're talking about possibilities of Legends content.
Yeah. Which actually is probably more fun to talk about, because Legends is fucking insane.
And that is way more, like...
That's the kind of thing you could do what if with, probably, is Legends canon.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise...
That's like several layers of removed from, like, current Star Wars fans who are just casual.
Yeah.
Who would be interested in that what if.
Yeah. Oh, man, I love... I love how crazy the Force is in this first movie, though, man. Obi-Wan just starts talking to Luke, and Luke just kind of accepts that. He's like, okay, yeah, sure. All right, voice in my head now. Understood. And Obi-Wan doesn't actually offer him any practical advice.
But it's like, what? Run. No.
Use the Force at the end, which is what causes Luke to turn off the targeting computer. But even then, I feel like Luke's faith in the Force, I'm not sure he needed the disembodied voice to tell him that. Maybe.
I think Luke probably would have gone through the targeting computer.
Yeah. Anyway, oh man, James Earl Jones is a brilliant performer, man. I hate the way he says "what" at the end.
What?
What? I mean, at the end of the day, also, James Earl Jones' performance in this first movie is so different from every other James Earl Jones Vader performance. It honestly is one of those things that like was probably affected by his own reputation as the character. Because Vader is one of those characters that immediately became iconic in pop culture. And so you feel like when Jones was doing Empire and Jedi, then it's just like, he knows what people thought of him. And also, it's a refined performance. It's a better performance than New Hope.
Sure. New Hope's sort of the roughest draft of what Star Wars would look like.
Yeah.
Which is simultaneously fortunate and unfortunate, because the first draft is also the final draft.
Yeah. I always forget that R2 gets fucked up in the final battle, man.
I forgot that too.
So it's that question of how much do you treat R2 and 3PO like actual characters, and how often are they tools? And this is one of those cases where unfortunately R2 is treated like a tool, because it's another one of those moments where like we want to make Luke all alone. All of his pilots are down. Biggs dies. Wedge gets out of there, and and he turns off his targeting computer after R2 gets destroyed. So he's like completely alone in that moment. It's again that leap of faith that Luke has to take. So I do find it interesting that the way to do that is turning R2, who's very much been a character throughout the movie, into a tool for Luke to use in that final moment.
Yeah, it's like a switch was flipped in the way you just think of them.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's because, too, that R2's main mission as a character has been completed.
Yeah. And,
like, you could theoretically turn your brain off from thinking of R2 as a character and think of him as a tool, of any other tool.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I also just want to avoid the whole Christopher Bid-Me treating K9 like a tool in Doctor Who, you know?
Yes, that's what I was going to.
Yeah, he's, that was one of his things when he, became script editor. He's like, K9's not a character, he's a fucking tool. But here it's like, no, first off, K9 is such a fucking character. That's a Doctor Who conversation, but it's
not going into
totally
that.
different thing. But, here, it's an apt conversation to have, because, it's just R2 is very much a character, and Lucas has been treating him like a character the entire time. And it's just a weird moment. Also, it's been a long time, like I said, since I've watched the original editions of these. The cardboard cutouts at the end.
Oh, yeah.
In that big throne room scene at the end. Oh, brilliant. Just a brilliant...
It is simultaneously, super cheap, but God, it had to be easier than hiring a bunch of extras.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Just tell some cardboard making stand company, I need 50 of this.
Yeah. It's so funny. I love that. They're just cardboard cutouts. Also, great final topic to transition us into the comic. Luke's outfit.
Yes.
Which apparently is just what he wears, which I guess makes a lot more sense in hindsight.
Considering Han didn't really see the change.
Han doesn't dress up for the ceremony. Chewie doesn't wear anything special. Leia does, but she's knighting them pretty much.
So
but Luke comes out in this yellow jacket. It's like, all right, cool. You dressed up. Nobody else did. All right, that's a little weird.
R2 and 3PO got a bit of a polish, but that's pretty expected.
But the lovely thing that the comics do is they just make that his casual outfit then between New Hope and Empire, which
is fine.
That's a cool idea. Yeah. But that said, shall we talk about a Skywalker Strikes?
Yes, that's where it's new for both of us.
Yes, yeah, everything's new here, which is really, really cool. I had seen a lot about this run when it was coming out. First of all, I love Jason Aaron as a writer. He's just wonderful.
I mean, he's good here. You told me good things about other work.
Dude, his Thor. Mwah.
I mean, when you told me it was written by Jason Aaron, I was like, oh, he wrote Thor.
Yeah, you remember me talking about Jason Aaron on Thor. Because, he's a brilliant writer. But I'd heard some things about this run at the time, and I heard it was pretty good. So we're here. I will say, I think, going forward with this, I think we're going to, keep our comics a bit more, structured in how we cover them. Because it's the area that's mostly new to us in all this. So we're gonna do this, and I believe the Vader, early Vader comics as well, sort of side by side together.
Well, they were running at the same time, right?
They were running at the same time, and then there's a crossover event called Vader Down. So we'll get up to that. We'll do that for the first couple episodes, and then we'll probably move on to something else.
It's a good jumping off point, yeah.
But yeah, so this was I really enjoyed this.
It answers questions, it raises more. Mm-hmm. It literally ends on a cliffhanger.
I think the way Aaron takes on writing a Star Wars post New Hope.
And that's all you would have theoretically known.
Yeah. That's a lot of what this first volume is. This first volume covers the first 6 issues of it. Yeah, yes. First 6 issues. And Jason Aaron spends a lot of time telling us what the Star Wars universe is like after the destruction of the Death Star.
Well, firstly, it's short on supplies.
Yeah. Which I found really, really interesting.
It also totally makes sense.
Yeah. I loved the idea of, and also just the way that characters interact with each other. So Han Solo as a character at the start of this volume is going around pretending to be Jabba the Hutt's envoy because people know that he's connected to Jabba.
And everyone's just you know what? Sure.
Yeah.
We kind of need him. For, again, the lack of supplies and shipping material.
Yeah. I also love that the first issue opened on an opening crawl, treating it like one of the Star Wars movies, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, I don't know. I really love the idea. Han is going around pretending to be Jabba's envoy, making some supply runs for the Empire.
In this case, that's not his plan.
Yeah. It's really, really interesting. And I like the whole like first arc. It's sort of like split into like 2 halves, like 3 issues and 3 issues, and I liked what they were doing there. Also in this first issue, there's a random surprise appearance from Forlong, the bounty hunter Forlong.
Yes.
Yeah. Which apparently, actually, I learned recently there's a debate between how to pronounce his name. It's like an AT-AT thing, which it's AT-AT, by the way.
Any other pronunciation is wrong.
But apparently some people call Forlong 4LOM.
Really?
Yes.
Any reason?
I don't know. Although I did also apparently learn... Sorry. It's not the reason, but it's a rumored reason as to why he's called Forlong.
Oh.
So, like, as I understand it, a lot of Star Wars characters, like supporting characters and like background characters in Star Wars, wouldn't be named until like Kenner made the toy for them.
Right, that doesn't really shock me.
You know, you'd make fucking, I don't know, you know, I mean, all the bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back, they're gonna make the toys for them, and they're like, okay, we need some names for these bounty hunters. They call up someone at Lucasfilm, probably not George Lucas himself, but they're like, hey, what's this guy's name? And they're like,
intern number 32.
Yeah,
I need
like,
5
this
names.
fucking guy. But apparently, it's a rumor. It might not be true, but I kind of love to think of it this way. Forlom was named that way because Kenner knew like the monopoly that they had with Star Wars toys. Forlom, apparently, it is rumored, stands for the love of money.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know what? I could see George approving that name.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, really funny. I love that. Anyway, back onto the comic. But I loved that. I heard that recently. I thought that was fucking awesome. Oh man, I love that they call Vader the Negotiator. They say the Negotiator has arrived. I'm like, ooh, the Negotiator. Oh, it's Darth Vader. Okay, cool. You know what? That makes sense. Yeah.
I'd send Vader on very important supply missions at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a pilot who blew up the Death Star somewhere.
Yeah, right? That and that's another thing that I really loved about this. I wonder if it'll be expanded on in like Vader's comic series too,
where he's the main character. Sure.
Yeah, if he's like obsessed with Luke in this, like he's obsessed with finding just that one pilot that outsmarted him. Which, to be fair, it wasn't just Luke.
No.
Han is really the one that fucked him over.
I really think there should be more emphasis on Han in this context, but it is what it is.
Yeah. But whatever. We also continue the idea in this of Obi-Wan like still like talking to Luke through the Force.
And it's equally just as freaky and inconvenient. Yeah,
we get another like run Luke moment, sort of, and I enjoy seeing that.
Is it in the first issue that has probably my favorite interaction in the whole book?
Which one?
With Luke's like, "You killed my father. I killed a lot of fathers."
I think that's in the second issue. Yeah. Just a funny ass moment. I love that. Yeah. So exploring the relationship between Luke and Vader in this is one of Aaron's like top priorities here. Both in Vader's obsession with Luke, wanting to find out more about him, but also just treating Luke as a bug as well. Like, he sees Luke here, like, when he finally comes face-to-face with him, he's like, he doesn't realize he's the same pilot, first off.
No.
But also he's just like, oh, okay, here, a guy with a lightsaber. All right. Okay, shit, he finds out that it's his lightsaber. He sees that, he learns that Obi-Wan trained him. He's told that Obi-Wan told Luke that Vader killed his father.
And again, he killed a lot of fathers.
And it's so interesting to take something like that at face value, not just for Luke, because, you know, we know what Luke believes at this point, but for Vader as well, because Vader hasn't put together either that Luke is his son yet.
By what?
At this point, yeah.
He doesn't believe there was any children involved in that affair.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
What do you mean?
Like that any children would survive to this point into this affair.
Yeah, I gotcha. But yeah, it's I loved just kind of like exploring that, and also I just loved seeing Luke being so filled with rage that he wants to take on Vader himself right now.
Right. That's like what he does for 2 issues straight.
Yeah.
Like he's constantly like Leia's like, listen, Luke, gotta go. Luke's like, give me 5.
Yeah. Gotta kill Hitler. And also it's also not just Luke, because again, Star Wars characters in the Age of the Empire and the Age of Rebellion, for that matter, don't necessarily believe in the Force as a whole, so we treat Vader pretty casually when it comes to like trying to kill him. Leia and like Han hijack an AT-AT at one point, and they're like, just fucking stomp on him. That'll work.
For any other human, sure.
Vader, straight out of the fucking Force Unleashed, lifts up the entire AT-AT. Beautiful moment.
And it's also got that great. It's also got the moment where Leia's like, he's using the Force. Han's like, there's no such thing as the Force.
Yeah.
As he's being lifted in the air.
Oh, man. I'll talk about it a bit more. I guess it's apt to bring up now. So, when we talk about, like, Heir to the Empire, I'll say that, like, I both read the book and listened to Mark Thompson's audiobook. For some reason, I think because I was doing these, like, simultaneously, the book and the comic, I kept reading Han's dialogue in Mark Thompson's very specific Harrison Ford impression.
Okay.
Which is not original trilogy Han. It's more like Harrison Ford nowadays, Han Solo. You know?
Gotcha. I'm with you.
Yeah, it's just really funny. I loved the whole subplot of C-3PO versus the scavengers.
That was funny.
They were like attacking the Falcon. I thought that was really fun. Yeah, it was just great. Yeah, I also just love. We sort of mentioned it already. The way that Aaron writes the dynamic between Han and Leia.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really fun because Aaron does a great job of like sort of like separating himself both from the fact that he has to take only the first Star Wars movie as canon, but also has to remember that like he's writing in the Star Wars universe, so. He's like setting up Han and Leia's romance already, and later on in the volume, he's using like Jabba the Hutt and Boba Fett, characters that can just casually interact with the main cast of Star Wars.
No reason they can't.
Yeah, exactly. Which I just found that really, really interesting.
As long as nothing breaks canon, everything's good.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's Star Wars. It's gonna break canon at some point. Who cares? Yeah, it's really interesting. That's right. We got a great like helmetless Vader moment in this.
Oh god, that was
Dude,
so
in
cool.
the wreckage when he grabs his fucking helmet, the one Imperial officer sees him. Oh, I loved that moment so much, man.
What was his exact reaction?
I'm looking for it right now. Oh no, it's a stormtrooper. That's right. Here you go. He's like, Lord Vader, we have. Mother of moons. I'm sorry, my lord. I didn't realize. Vader snaps his goddamn neck.
Like, doesn't he twist the head like
all the
round?
way around? Yeah, just fucking murders him. It puts the helmet back on, leaves. He's pissed now. Oh, it's so good.
Han also thinks he's dead at this exact moment, just for reference.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is funny to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I like kind of like the whole idea of the squad being here to sort of take on to destroy this like Imperial weapons factory, but also at the same time like finding that they didn't know that these slaves were here to begin with, so they're like liberating slaves at the same time.
Yeah.
Another thing that I found just really interesting though with the team dynamic is that they have basically become a team. They're their own like rebellion squad. They're what do they call them in Rebels?
Oh,
we're
a cell?
A cell, that's they're pretty much their own cell. Like it's Leia, Han, Chewie, Luke.
And that's acknowledged to Leia.
Yeah. Like they're referred to as like Leia's squad. Like it's her group. It's really, really interesting. And also just it leads to some really great badass Leia moments. Which are just awesome. Oh man, it was great. Oh, also, oh man, just again, like Luke is filled with so much guilt throughout this entire volume, because through his time with Obi-Wan, Luke has felt like this really close connection with his father that he never knew. And I quoted one of Luke's lines on my notes here that says, "Sorry, I'll never be the Jedi you were," talking about his father, which I find really, really fascinating. And as that's happening, Vader is still like hunting him down. It's just, it's so good.
It's this great bit of no one knowing anything.
Yeah, totally.
Like if Vader won right now, he would have never known that was his son.
Yeah. Oh man, so good. Oh man, you know what was also great? There were just a lot of great Vader moments in this in general, but one of my favorites was when after the factory is destroyed, this like officer is talking to Vader like through this like comlink thing.
Yeah.
And just through like the speech bubbles that are written there, like you see that Vader force chokes the guy from the planet below without even seeing him. I love that. It's great. We already knew Vader could do that because of Empire, but just having it be done like that, I just thought it was really, really cool. Oh man, it was awesome. Let's see, what else?
Luke feels that, like, because I'm looking at the right page here, that, like, Luke is like, man, he feels like a burden to the team.
Yeah, because he has, like, so much baggage behind him. Like, it's...
And the fact he isn't nearly as trained as the people around him would like to assume he is.
Yeah. We also built up this idea that Obi-Wan was like, once again, that idea of like fate in Star Wars. Obi-Wan was sort of like planning this meeting between him and Luke at some point, and so we introduced the idea of the literally a mystery box.
Yeah,
left at Obi-Wan's home on Tatooine.
It's hilarious and how obvious that thought is.
Yeah, but I think genuinely my favorite scene in this entire comic, favorite sequence of scenes, I guess, was Vader and Jabba together.
Oh, it was so interesting,
dude. Oh my god.
It's characters that, like, I don't know, I didn't think would meet, but they did.
It's also literally Anakin Skywalker, a child slave, meeting his slaver again as he has become a dictator.
Yeah, it's just so interesting.
God, that's so good. Also, I just want to call out the art. There's some wonderful artwork throughout this entire collection, drawn by John Cassidy, who's just really, really wonderful. He captures some really great, just Star Wars characters throughout this. It's really nice.
Like Jabba looks really good, for example.
Yeah, that's literally the page I'm looking at as I talk about this.
But he goes to see Jabba, and I just love, like, the setup. He's there to negotiate terms, and it's like, you live. That's the end of the negotiation.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
Jabba's like, alright, cool. I have literally infinite resources. Take anything.
Yeah. Oh man, I also loved, and again, it's not just Han's lack of Force belief that, like, sort of like blinds him. It's also the fact that he doesn't know just anything about the Jedi or the Force. This is really interesting moment that I hadn't considered. Han doesn't know what a lightsaber is called.
No.
He doesn't know what it's called. He's just like, oh, it's just Luke's sword thingy. Like, it's just, he doesn't know what a lightsaber is called. It's just cool. It's a cool moment. I really enjoyed that.
These are the things you don't think about as a fan, maybe. Because as a fan, you're steeped in this knowledge.
Yeah.
When you're not a fan, when you live in the universe,
mm-hmm.
and the Jedi are theoretically a dead religious group,
mm-hmm.
who had specialized trinkets, say a weapon,
mm-hmm.
you're not going to know what it's called if you didn't care.
Yeah, exactly. More on, like, characters interacting in this that you don't really think about. You don't consider, like, interacting a lot.
No.
I love the meeting between Leia, Dodonna, Mon Mothma, and Akbar. Which again, like, yeah, just like things like Rebels and just other expanded universe things in general have told us that, like, Mon Mothma and Akbar were sort of always part of this fight. But just actually, like, having this here, like, in a time period specifically between the original first two movies, I just thought it was fascinating. I really enjoyed that. Luke deciding he has to go back to Tatooine. I like that. I like that idea. Because Luke just gets this sense of, like you mentioned, like, that he's a burden to the team. That, like, there's this sort of, like, unfinished business because he hasn't really, like, dealt with the guilt of his father's death. That he doesn't even know.
That's the most interesting part.
Yeah, again, I just love that idea. That really, really works. I love that.
Then we meet a stranger.
A stranger indeed. So, dude, I had no clue what to expect. I had no clue what to expect.
I see new bounty hunter looking character. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
this can go a lot of ways.
Yeah. First off, interacting with another idea that I really love. These Rhodians on Tatooine that want to avenge Greedo's death.
Right?
Just these guys that are really attached to Greedo. Just a fun idea. But also, mystery person. I had no thoughts.
No, I didn't really think anything strongly. Because I see this new character, and I assumed, it was a bold assumption, I will add, that I would be told who this was before the book ended. Yeah, and as we were getting, like, closer and closer to the end, I was like, oh, are we? Am I going to know? Am I going to find out? Thankfully, we do by the end. Yes. But, man, I love... I love Vader's hatred of Salacious Crumb. It's apt. You get that beautiful panel of Salacious Crumb
doing that horrid laughter that we all know and love. And Vader says, and I love the line so much, if you value that creature's life, you should tell it to never again do that in my presence. It's so good. Oh my god. Oh man, it's so good. But man, just Vader and Jabba's interactions are fascinating. I really, really love them.
It implies he knows something that's unsaid that I maybe didn't pick up on.
What specifically?
I'm trying to find it. It's in one of the panels on the page on the left that we're both looking at.
Okay, I mean, like, there's that whole thing in there about Vader hiring bounty hunters. Is it about that?
Maybe that's it.
Yeah. Which is also cool, because simultaneously, you know, again, Vader's obsession with Luke, and also, you're kind of setting up Empire Strikes Back that way.
Yeah.
With Vader's relationship to the bounty
hunters.
hunters.
It's these little breadcrumbs that lead to more open statements.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe it's supposed to be more implied here that, like, it's not supposed to be known the Empire's handling this to bounty hunters.
Yeah.
So by the time they're openly doing it, things have gotten really serious and out of control.
Yeah. And as, like, Vader is telling Jabba about this mystery person from Tatooine that is causing so much trouble for the Empire, Jabba has this great moment of reflection. And I love the line. I'm going to read it out straight. Wait until you see it, Lord Vader. The Sarlacc is one of the few treasures this desolate world has to offer. It is still hard to believe that this boy of yours, this mighty warrior who destroyed the undestroyable Death Star, great little Titanic moment, could possibly have come from these same empty dunes. Who knew anyone of note was ever born on Tatooine? Jesus.
To Vader.
Goddamn. And I love, and it's one of those moments that, like, Vader has this blank expression that for some reason, just in the hands of the right artist, you can portray so much emotion on.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. You just know exactly what's going on in those eyes as he looks at the twin suns setting. It's wonderful. Wonderful moment.
A sight he probably wishes he never had to see.
Yeah.
Ever again.
Yeah. Oh man. And also just, I love the issue 4 cliffhanger of Boba Fett showing up.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh man. Just, again, another one of those characters that you don't think about. Oh yeah, he could just freely interact with Star Wars characters before Empire Strikes Back. Yeah,
no particular reason he can't.
Yeah, there's nothing in Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi that says they don't know about Boba Fett already. Hell, they never say his name. Han never learns his name in Empire Strikes Back, so he already knows his name in Jedi. So he kind of has to know him beforehand.
That's true.
I had not considered that until this very moment. Yeah, because Chewie's like. Chewie like roars at Han in Jedi, and Han's like, Boba Fett, and it's just one of those great Harrison Ford deliveries. It's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, Boba is one of the bounty hunters that Vader has hired to look for Luke Skywalker, or look for the mystery child.
Of which he will probably be looking for Ben Kenobi's place.
Yes. So, oh man, these last two issues in particular were so good. I loved them. I love the whole sequence of Luke just looking around Tatooine, Boba looking for him as well. And Boba's methods are so effective. That whole sequence in the cantina was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because there's a moment where he finds, presumably, Luke's friend. I don't remember their exact connection, like, pre this comic, if there is any.
Is he his friend?
Like, he knows him, because he says that he knows his name and stuff.
Well, yeah. But I feel like it's more of one of those, like... one of those guys that just hung out at the Tashi station and just, like, knew Luke and his
Maybe.
friends.
But I think my point is, like, he's running away, and he's like, I don't know anything. You do enough to run away.
Yeah. I like the idea that of Han... Han not being able to get new parts for the Falcon because of budget reasons.
Right?
We are spending so much money, Han, trying to find a new base that you can't have fucking parts for the Falcon.
It's very real feeling.
Yeah. Also, another one of those cool ideas that actually you don't consider, because between New Hope and Empire, it's just they have a new base, but their base was found at the end of New Hope. They gotta relocate.
This is them doing that.
Yeah. Also, I guess like our first sort of like in-canon look at that fleet that follows the rebellion around between Empire and Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. It's a cool idea. Oh man, Boba gets Luke's name. Again, just John Cassidy's art is so good. We get a great Sand People call out, which is nice. Oh yeah. So interestingly, it's definitely not the same shuttle from Return of the Jedi.
No way, no way it can be.
But yeah, but Han and Leia like go out like in yet another stolen Imperial shuttle, which God, they must be easy to come by, I guess.
That or it's easy to pirate them.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, Han has to like first these like TIE fighters like come up to the two of them and they Han has to like shake these TIE fighters off because they sort of like get what's going on immediately.
Actually, no. The joke is they don't. The code works.
Well, yeah, the code works, but then like then the story starts to like fall apart, and I like just like not portraying TIE pilots and just TIE fighters and stormtroopers in general, just not as idiots. It's nice.
It's almost like they're a highly specialized military class.
No. I like the whole Luke versus Boba segment. And actually, it makes it for another great like issue cliffhanger at the end of issue 5, which is really fun. Luke does like pretty much like the entire fight blind because it's like this like grenade that Boba hits him with at the end of issue 5, which I don't know, just makes for a really cool thing. And also just another one of those moments that fulfills on some of the character arcs began in New Hope, where Luke is literally learning to fight blind.
His senses will betray him.
Yeah. It's so good.
In fact, they literally have betrayed him.
Yeah. And so it literally leads up to this moment when Luke gets his lightsaber out, when he's actually able to deflect a blaster bolt from Boba Fett. It's really important and a great moment. I just really enjoyed that. Meanwhile, Han and Leia like sort of like hiding themselves beneath this
electrical storm cloud thing.
Yeah. They're being followed. Well, the TIE fighters eventually are like, let's get the fuck out of here.
They're clearly dead.
Yeah. This mystery person, bounty hunter looking person, is still following the Falcon. And a ship that almost looks like the Falcon, which I like. I think that's a cool idea. As the fight between Luke and Boba comes to a head, Boba's
grabbing the literal mystery box.
Yes. They leave. Meanwhile, Han and Leia are met with with Han's little stalker person. We learn eventually that this is a character named Sana, one of those.
I in my head it's Sana. Could be.
I feel like Sana would be 2 N's, wouldn't it?
I don't know.
Anyway, Sana. I'm gonna say Sana. I don't know.
Sana.
It's one of them. She's Han Solo's wife, which I don't know what that implies yet.
But also, would it really shock you to find out Han Solo ran off from his wife?
Yeah. Well, no, it wouldn't. But also, how does this work with Solo, a Star Wars story? I mean, I guess there's a lot of time between.
There's a big enough gap, if we're honest.
Yeah. Fun. I don't know. I can't wait to see like what that does. Like when we eventually do Volume 2, that'll be fun. That'll be really fun. Luke opens up his mystery box then and finds the journals of Ben Kenobi, and then we end on a fantastic scene between Boba Fett and Darth Vader as Boba comes back to Vader with the name of the man that he's looking for, and that is Luke Skywalker. Vader hears this name, breaks the glass in front of him, literally in the shape of like an Imperial logo, which I find really cool.
That is really cool.
That is where it ends. And oh, goddamn, I cannot wait to continue this title. And also just to see what the early Vader comic is like as we do this and that side by side.
I was thinking of that. I was like, Vader seems like such a big part of this comic. I wonder if, like, what the Vader comic does is, like, not necessarily supplemental, is the wrong word, but I think you know what I mean to be getting at. Like it's in addition to what we see him doing here.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. I wonder if, like, if that has anything to do with like how, like, Vader's role, like, actually in this comic. I don't know.
Like, I wonder if maybe occasionally, I doubt we'll see it a lot, but like, say that scene that the comic ends on. Like, in the Vader comic, I wonder if the last issue of the Vader comic is an extended version of that, maybe?
Maybe?
It'd be a good way to tie the two of them together.
I'm not sure if I'd want that, though. I think I want them to be, like, for the most part, separate, but also, like, again, like, really hard when Vader was in literally every single one of these issues.
Yes, what I mean.
So, I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll
find out.
Yeah, we're definitely doing the first volume of the Vader comic next time, which I'm very excited for. Let's take a little break from discussing main Star Wars... Well, I guess our main 3 topics of today. Let's talk about some current Star Wars things. This will be just like a little segment in between at some point in any given episode of R2-BD that just talks about like things currently going on in Star Wars. I was thinking initially, like, this is like a good place to like talk about like new trailers that are coming out, new announcements. But we don't, unfortunately, we
kind of chose a bad time for this one.
We don't have much of that right now. So I thought I'd just take some time to talk about some things that we know are coming up, some things I'd like to maybe discuss. I think I've chosen today, I'd like to talk about the announcement. We haven't heard much on it yet. Tales of the Jedi Season 2.
Yes.
As is definitely one that we could come up with a massive wish list for, and only inevitably be let down.
By every of our wish list items.
Yeah, so let's give a wish list anyway. No, really, I mean, it could be anything. I'll be happy with pretty much anything it gives me, but just some things that I'd love to see. At first, I'd like it to expand out into, like, lesser-known Star Wars characters, The first season was about Ahsoka and Count Dooku.
I mean, they're important bridges, and it helps get the thing on casual viewers' eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to see more random Jedi.
Yeah.
I think it would be immensely interesting.
I mean, top of my list, Plo Koon and Kit Fisto.
I mean, yeah, but those are our top 2 together.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of that. No. No, Plo Koon and Kit Fisto, I would love to see the 2 of them. So, Plo Koon, I think, is very likely because it's Filoni, so...
He's also one of Dave Filoni's favorite Jedi, yes. So, it odds are we'll see him in something.
Yeah. It'll be the story of how he survived.
No. Although Filoni might try to make that work.
I think Mace Windu could be a cool one to explore in Tales of the Jedi.
I would love to see more of what Mace Windu did.
Yeah. I really enjoyed his whole the episode he was in the first season of Tales of the Jedi with Dooku, which was pre-Phantom Menace Mace Windu, which was really interesting to see. In a time before he was on the Jedi Council.
This was his ascension to it.
Yeah. So that's something I'd like to see expanded on. I think that might be pretty fun.
I'd like to see more of that time period. I think it could be... I agree. It's immensely interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I wonder if Tales of the Jedi will ever go into like original trilogy era stuff.
I think that'd be interesting, though at that point you potentially have to get into recasts, and we know how some people feel about recasts.
Yeah. Although something like... Actually, that's a cool idea I just came up with. Maybe something following Caleb Doom.
That's definitely possible.
His time between escaping the clones and before finding Hera.
I mean, there's plenty of time, obviously.
There's a lot of time, yeah. That could make a really solid 3 episodes, sort of like in the same time span that we saw Dooku's story in the first season.
Just show him doing his thing.
Yeah, that could be really fun.
You have to sort of pair it up thematically, though, kind of like they did with Dooku and Ahsoka.
Did they pair that up thematically?
Just a little bit, like in that each time we saw them, it was a different, very important stage of their life.
Yeah. But then they also felt the need to put it all in chronological order for some reason, which is just I always thought was really stupid, but whatever. Qui-Gon's another character I'd love to just see more with. I don't know. And Liam Neeson would do it.
Oh, yeah, I don't think there's really any question of that.
I think my ultimate goal really would be to eventually, once the High Republic becomes more widely known with the advent of the Acolyte, I'm sure. I'd love to see some High Republic ones. I think that'd be really fun.
I might literally kill for that. That'd be awesome.
That'd be great. Elzar Mann, Stellan Geos. The Stellan Geos.
We know so much of their potential paths you could show.
Yeah, exactly. There's actually, I know you haven't read it, in the one annual, there's a great story that they could probably adapt into just a Tales of the Jedi short between Vern and Stellan. Which could be really, really fun.
Interesting.
But yeah, actually, you know what? Since Vernestra Rowe is going to be in the Acolyte, that would be a good maybe opportunity to
start doing that. Yeah,
to have Vernestra in some of those shorts. That could be really cool. But also, I know Tales of the Jedi started as a Filoni passion project. I don't know how into High Republic he is.
I'd hope he's not into it. I would hope he's aware of it.
Yeah,
and is maybe keeping it in the back of his mind.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I'm also going into this conversation assuming that Tales of the Jedi Season 2 is going to have the exact same structure as Season 1, which it could very well not.
It feels like a pretty fair assumption, though.
3 and 3 for 2 different Jedi.
And they'd match up in some way or another.
It's possible.
Though I think it would be interesting to see, some loose, like new viewer-friendly ways to do High Republic content.
Yeah, definitely.
Before you hit, like, the mega fans who know their backstories more deeply.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't know. Those are just some things I'd like to see. A lot of things I'd like to see.
A lot of things.
Yeah. At the end of the day, as long as it's about 2 new Jedi rather than doing more Ahsoka and Dooku stuff, which I'm sure it will be, then I'll be happy. You know, focusing on literally anyone.
I mean, I'm sure I've said this about many other topics in Star Wars, but how much more can you show? Exactly.
Did you ever imagine you'd watch The Birth of Ahsoka Tano?
No, but it feels like a fair idea of being proposed.
Yeah, I mean, hell, like, there is literally room for more Ahsoka stuff, because we something that I thought we'd see in the first season of Tales of the Jedi that we never did was her being taken by Plo Koon. And we never saw that.
You didn't.
So
you think you would, but you didn't.
And it's very possible.
We'll have to see.
We'll have to see indeed. Alright, shall we move on to our final thing for today?
The main event, if you will.
The main event only because it took the longest. And that's going to be the case with all of our books. But, Heir to the Empire. So I chose our first book for this episode.
You did.
Yeah, we're going to go back and forth with our episodes with, like, who chooses what book. So you're choosing our next one.
Which No.
I
haven't read a lot of Star Wars content before the High Republic.
Fair
that
enough.
was my big leap into Star Wars novels.
Gotcha.
So obviously, not a lot of pre-Disney purchasing.
Yeah. This is your first Legends novel. Obviously, it's a good starting point because it was the first ever post-Return of the Jedi Star Wars thing to be released.
Yes.
Which is really, really cool.
But that raises... It is written in the most interesting time period.
The more important thing to note, it wasn't just written post-Return of the Jedi. It was written pre-Phantom Menace. That's the important part there.
And that's where a lot of the most interesting things come from.
Yeah. So, I guess my own history. I had read Heir to the Empire and the whole original Thrawn trilogy back in, like, middle school. I remember them fairly well. I mostly remember Heir to the Empire. Because as I started rereading this for this episode, it all just sort of, like, came flooding back to me. And it's still so good. It's so fucking good.
I, as someone who didn't really know much about it, but I know the key things about the Legends timeline. Mm-hmm. When people would show up and be like, "Oh,
you're here. Hi, Mara Jade."
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a really interesting one to talk about for reasons like that. But I think the first thing I actually want to bring up here is that this takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. How did you find that?
The timeline?
The time jump, yeah. Because any other time that we have immediately followed Return of the Jedi in, like, a visual medium with the current canon and all that, we first did Force Awakens, which was 30 years post Return of the Jedi. We've since stepped back and done, I think Mando is only meant to be 5 years post Return.
Mando's about the same time frame.
Yeah. So, just giving us time for, like, our characters to breathe a little bit more in between. But how did you find the time jump in, like, treating its legacy characters?
I think no one felt very out of character. Not like... Okay, what I'm saying is, like, in reference to a 30-year time jump, that is more time for characters to change in ways you might not necessarily guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
In 5 years, you could a lot of what I saw, I could have probably guessed. The government's being built up. Leia and Han are together. Them having the kids was a surprise. To me personally.
That's interesting.
Because I didn't know when the kids came in.
Yeah, right away.
Right away.
Well, Leia's still pregnant, but they're there somehow.
It feels fairly obvious in retrospect that, like, how do you definitively show
that time has passed?
You literally give Leia kids.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, it also makes sense. If they've been married, probably. For about officially together for about 5 years. It is. Yeah, the fact that they're just now having kids is unsurprising. It also makes sense.
No, like I said, it's definitely the easiest way to show this is how time has passed. Mm-hmm. And then there's more demonstrative things that show, like, Luke has some anxiety. Mm-hmm. So the book justifies that by giving us reasons for him to have anxiety.
Yeah.
They're in the Imperial capital. They're on Coruscant, which was very interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, described not exactly as the prequel show Coruscant.
It has a lot more mountains and a lot more wilderness.
Yeah. It is still like the city planet because that's how it was pitched originally.
But I mean, if we're honest, before Episode 1, if you're told city planet, what exactly do you picture?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, this feels right.
Yeah,
like the way, but we're getting slightly ahead of ourselves on that front.
We can talk about it. Let it be whatever.
But what I'm saying is, like, character developments that seem obvious don't need justification. Han and Leia being married, having kids, sure. Yeah. Perfectly reasonable. Yeah. Luke Skywalker being, concerned, being anxious, that needs some justification, and it gives you that.
Yeah, definitely. One of my favorite things about this novel that Timothy Zahn does is he introduces so many new characters to this, but ones that feel like they've been in the Star Wars universe for a very long time. Zahn takes the time to introduce characters like Grand Admiral Thrawn and Captain Pelion and Mara Jade and give them a deep-seated history in the Star Wars universe and acts as if they've always been there.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm assuming for some it could take you out and be like, oh, okay, that's a little weird. You're just retroactively throwing them in there. But it helps with Zahn's world building, I think, because he's able to just treat it as if like these guys were always there.
For example, Thrawn was in the unknown regions.
Mm-hmm.
There is Leia's aide named Winters, Winter, who is a childhood friend of some capacity.
Yeah.
They've been given plausible explanations as to where they were.
Yeah, definitely. It gives you this feeling that like through the smaller like skirmishes and battles we've seen, and they were significant battles in the original trilogy, this conflict between the rebellion and the Empire was so much bigger than we imagined. Things like, we saw, Vader lose at the Battle of Yavin, but also like at that same time maybe Thrawn was off conquering some other planet, and that's how the Empire stayed in power for so long, because a character like Grand Admiral Thrawn is this master strategist
who took one look at the Death Star and went, that's a waste of resources.
Yeah God, I can't imagine how pissed that guy was when he was like, they built the Death Star, alright, well, it got destroyed, what now? Oh, okay, they're building another one. Gotcha. Fuck off. No wonder Thrawn wanted nothing to do with those guys. No wonder he wasn't there.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like he also might not have been there because he might have complained so much that the Emperor was like, just go somewhere else.
Yeah. That said, though, as someone that's only like familiar with the current canon version of Thrawn, how did you find his characterization in this?
It felt pretty on point. I remember commenting to you early on in this context. This was halfway through the book for me. And there were times where I was like, okay, clearly current canon did a good job with Thrawn's methodology of understanding people. Like, it's on point still. But it feels like a slightly unrefined version at this point.
Yeah.
And that's strictly because I'm looking at it after seeing like the master's PhD thesis version of Thrawn.
Yeah.
And this is the undergrad research paper Thrawn.
Fair enough.
Like, it's not bad. Everything I know is there.
The whole like obsession with like different people's like culture and their art, like representing like how they fight, is all there. Like, it's really
there's
cool.
Just more moments where Thrawn is clearly not in control. He's just being more.
It doesn't help that this is a Thrawn in command of an already dead empire.
Right, now that's the thing. Like, that's something I do have to remember. But like, even on like the bridge, like Thrawn is totally in control until Sabaoth does literally anything.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, we gotta talk about Drew Sabaoth, who
the
first
Dark
off,
Jedi.
There's a lovely train outside. We're gonna keep it in. Whatever. It's not loud. But yeah, no, it's so okay. First off, we're pronouncing it that way because that's how the Mark Thompson official narrated Heir to the Empire pronounces it. It's Jeruis Sabaoth, apparently.
And you had to remind me of that a couple of times. True. Because looking at that on the page, I don't know how you're supposed to read it.
Right? Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so let's talk about this guy. What the fuck?
He is an interesting combination of some pretty early guesswork at what the Clone Wars could have been, and what would a Jedi like Darth Vader, who has turned to be called?
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting because
he's like the ultimate patchwork of I know some things, but if I waited like 10 more years, I would know a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, not even 10 years. It's fair, 8 years, close enough. But yeah, no, seriously, like yeah, it's and actually even then, if we had waited until Phantom Menace, like we still wouldn't know anything about the Clone Wars.
No.
Like, most of what we know about Jeruis Sabaoth in this is that he, like, it has to do with the Clone Wars. The Jeruis Sabaoth that appears in this novel is a clone himself. And it was one of those old fan ideas that the Clone Wars was... It did involve cloning technology, obviously, but was more about, clones of other people, not all pulled from one guy.
Right, and sort of an invasion of the body snatcher style idea.
Yeah, it was more of that, yeah. So much so that, like, Jeruis, or Joris as it should be, is, believes that he is himself Jeruis Sabaoth, that he believes he's the original, which is really, really fascinating.
Which is interesting, it just more means he's mentally unstable.
Yeah. Sabaoth, the original Sabaoth also apparently died before the Clone Wars.
But even began. He was one of 6 Jedi Masters destroyed in a ship explosion.
Yes, because apparently Palpatine had already seen the threat the Jedi posed to his plan. So he decided to get rid of some, and Sabaoth was one of them. Which is, again, is a really, really interesting idea that I love exploring the ideas of what Palpatine was like, especially before the Empire.
And there's other little interesting things that are true if you think of Legends, of this specific Legends book as being like Legends, like things that aren't necessarily true even by Phantom Menace coming out.
Yeah.
And it's just a little quirk of language. We even talked about it before, referring to the Republic as the Old Republic.
Yeah.
They said that a lot in the book, and every time I think of the Old Republic...
You think of the video games
I think of the video games, right, exactly.
Yeah, Knights of the Old Republic, yeah.
So,
But the Old Republic is just the Republic to us.
Yeah, it's just to the characters in this book, and even by, actual canon, by episode 4, it's the Old Republic.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, I just love that. Anyway, Luke. I gotta talk about Luke for a little bit because, man, his first scene. I told you before you started reading this, I was like, I gotta know your reaction to the first scene, because Luke's first scene is he's saying goodbye to Obi-Wan's Force Ghost,
who is just kind of peacing off.
Yeah. So Timothy Zahn, not really knowing anything about how Force Ghosts work at the time. Nobody would know how Force Ghosts actually work at the time.
It would take actually quite a long time for anyone to know how Force Ghosts really work.
So Zahn takes the time to just make some assumptions about Force Ghosts because we want to really advance Luke's character. So the Force Ghosts in this book are more an idea that goes, Jedi, after they die, can exist in this form of purgatory, pretty much.
They're as a Force Ghost.
Yeah, Obi-Wan is a lingering spirit who, according to Obi-Wan himself, has long overspent his time on this mortal coil, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's time to move on into the Force, with the promise that he will see Luke again when Luke himself joins the Force, and that now Luke is on his own. There's this idea that I really loved. I forget the exact line. It was something along the lines of, "You are not the last of the old Jedi. You are the first of the new." That Luke is to be the next one to train the next generation. A
task which he hasn't gone to yet, but that's okay.
Yep. Because Zahn specifically writes it, and I want to really reiterate this point. Luke is afraid of failing. Luke is afraid of failing. He doesn't want to be this figurehead in the new Jedi Order because he's afraid of failing. A very real feeling that affects characters like Luke Skywalker in all forms of canon, friends. Anyway.
Failure is just a valid concern in pretty much any situation.
Yeah. So Luke is really scared to do this, and it's just a really cool part of his character in this. Also in our current time in the era of the New Republic, Han is hiring smugglers for the New Republic.
Well, he wants to anyway.
He's trying to, at least, with his old connections to smugglers.
I'm 100% certain everyone just kept telling him no.
Yeah. yeah. Which we literally see one of those scenes, but it's cool. There's this idea of like immediately post Return of the Jedi, Luke tried training Leia, and again was just afraid of failing.
So sort of stopped.
But literally in what we see in current canon, which is kind of cool.
But like it must have progressed a little further because they do this whole like twin force connection idea where they could feel each other's feelings if they're close enough.
Well, they literally do that in the original trilogy.
It's just more strong here, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, the training progressed enough that that's a thing.
Yeah. R2 and 3PO are not in this book enough.
No, they're not.
They really should be here more. I don't know. If you're trying to write a new trilogy of Star Wars movies, they've got to be here more.
Not to go full circle, but they're kind of tools here.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. It works that way. Yeah, I actually hadn't considered that. Anyway. I like the idea of the Bit Fasci. These like aliens that had some bad relations with the Jedi during the Clone Wars, and so have kind of like hated them ever since. And so like Luke can't be part of like the negotiations with them, which is really, really cool.
I mean, it feels like a reasonable idea.
Yeah. But like Leia gets attacked, and like we actually like get an idea of like Han and Leia, again, much like current canon, just not exactly being the perfect couple. They're both kind of like not great at the whole couple thing. They're both very focused on their work and what they have to do. But it's just a cool idea. I don't know. I like seeing that like carried over into like current stuff. It's nice.
Mm-hmm. It's like what Disney, like when they hired writers to write their current stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they've recognized there are very valuable lessons and ideas in the Legends content, specifically the stuff like the Essentials Legends collection they have. Yeah.
I mean, you also got to realize that, like, we read Heir to the fucking Empire for Legends, which is, fucking flagship book for the entirety of Legends continuity.
Right. It helps define a lot of it.
But Legends fucking spiraled out of control, man. There's a lot of Legends that's just absolute ass.
Which is part of the reason why I remember hearing Disney was like, and it's all gone.
It's all gone. And also kids, so they could do their own thing, which makes a lot of sense. But anyway, I want to talk about Mara Jade and Talon Card.
They are interesting.
They are a crew. So you knew the name Mara Jade.
I did. Yeah. Mostly because of her later connection.
Yes, yeah. So most people, when they hear like Mara Jade, they think, well, spoilers, I guess, sort of.
It's spoilers from like...
Yeah.
Almost 30 years ago?
Although if it's not current canon, is it a spoiler? Like, does it matter? Anyway,
you've been warned all the same.
Spoilers. Most people hear Mara Jade, they think like, oh yeah, Luke Skywalker wife. Okay, sure. That's not here at all. In fact, so far away from that. Still, Mara Jade hates Luke Skywalker.
But she's a great example of what you were talking about earlier. A character having roots in history.
Exactly. Yeah. And like and I think we joked about it like as we were both reading. It's just like, okay, yeah, sure. She was always there. She was at Jabba's palace. Gotcha. But also like he's doing that in an effort to say like these characters have always been here. You just haven't seen them because we had a limited scope of vision for when we were watching the original trilogy. We saw it through exclusively the eyes of Luke, Han, and Leia, and pretty much nobody else.
Right. So if the central focus isn't them, there could be literally any number of characters.
Yeah.
Mara Jade happening to be at Jabba's palace, poising to kill him any second now?
Mm-hmm.
Totally possible.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was a Mara Jade-like character in current canon, that is still theoretically possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, hell, like the book goes into this idea that Mara Jade is was this person called the Emperor's Hand, who was this sort of like personal guard. She wasn't necessarily trained in the Force.
She was trained with a lightsaber.
Yeah, and she was an assassin.
And she was completely unknown.
Yeah.
Like, no one knew of her existence.
You can sort of see this immediate connection into current, what we call Inquisitors these days.
Sure, it's a bit more generalized.
Yeah.
And people know they exist.
But, like, the Mara Jade Inquisitor could exist out there somewhere these days. I wouldn't find that a huge stretch.
No, honestly.
We've still got, like, 25 years to chart between the current shows that are coming out and Force Awakens. There a lot can happen.
Would it really surprise anybody involved if Mara Jade's part of the reason Luke Skywalker gave up on the Jedi?
Yeah, it's very possible. And also, I'm just gonna say it, like, it would be a great way to win a lot of people back that kind of hate the current Disney canon, is including Mara Jade somehow. But I don't know.
That's not necessarily.
I will also say. See, I don't know. I don't know how much to talk about Mara Jade because I don't know exactly how much you know.
I mean, I know mostly what the book tells me and more nebulous things about her future, though I have no immediate plans to know more. Do you know
what happens to her eventually?
Assuming she dies.
She does die eventually. She does. So, like, you could incorporate that still into Luke's arc and current canon, I think. It could work.
That could work. I mean, I had a feeling she dies, but, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know in what specific manner.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm assuming it's some ironic means of protecting Luke.
You'll see. I mean, if we keep going in order with Legends, it'll be a very long time, but you'll see. You'll see. Anyway, so yeah. Oh man, speaking of Luke, actually, I love the Dagobah scene. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. There's a couple of interesting things that happen there.
Mm-hmm.
One, I like how Luke, when he gets there and wants to find Yoda's house, he's like, "Oh right, this isn't a desert planet."
Yeah. yeah. I really so first off, yeah, like he's there like trying to find Yoda's purgatory ghost.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, if Obi-Wan could continue to linger
and he died before Yoda,
then that means that Yoda's still around. But Obi-Wan literally says in Luke's vision that he has long outstayed his welcome here as a Force ghost, so he's gonna fuck off.
You know, implying it's unusual a Force ghost would even really hang about as long as they have.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so he can't find Yoda, but he does, however, find the same cave he went into in Empire Strikes Back, and he has a wee vision in there, and it's great actually. I don't know, did you put together that it was Mara Jade in the vision?
Not initially, although Luke does helpfully describe that idea later.
Yeah. It's just a cool idea. I don't know, I really enjoy that. Man, I have a note here specifically. It's one of my real criticisms of this book. Just the constant quoting of the original trilogy. That happens all the fucking time.
It was a real annoyance.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe too.
I don't know what would have been worse though. I think Zod did the best with it if he really wanted to include the quoting of the trilogy. I think it would have been worse if nobody called it out. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just being like, oh yeah, Han just happens to be saying I'm trying to reach Lando Calrissian all over again. Instead, Leia's like, I remember when you did that. But it's it still doesn't make it any better, I think. Really?
No, it doesn't make it better. You're still doing it.
Yeah. Lampshading it does kind of help, though.
But they lampshaded it a lot.
Yeah. It's usually Leia, actually, that's lampshading it, which is kind of fun.
But, I mean, I don't know. It bothered me a little. But I wonder if it would have bothered people when it came out.
Probably not.
It would have felt like a comfort thing, maybe.
Probably. You know, I called out to you as actually we were both reading this, because I was like, you know what, the release of these books was a lot like the New Adventures for Doctor Who in the 90s.
Yes, we had this conversation.
Literally in the same year, in 1991, Doctor Who was revived in a similar way through novel format. And did a similar thing with its relation to its past continuity. Though this isn't quite as bad as some of those early Doctor Who outings.
No.
I mean, hell, it's up against Time Worm Genesis in this regard. So it's, anyway, but it's I don't know. I just found that really interesting that they were the two franchises were in surprisingly similar situations at the time, which had really never happened before and hasn't happened since.
Yeah. But they're two totally different franchises that we're not going to get on about.
Mm-hmm.
But one's a TV series that's been teetering on cancellation for years, and the other was a movie franchise with no obvious plans to keep going.
Yeah.
Those are very different situations.
Oh, yeah.
That somehow find each other in the same boat.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, man. Moving on, because we're talking about quoting the trilogy. And bringing us to Lando. Let's talk about Nomad City, which I fucking loved the idea of.
It was such an interesting idea with an equally interesting execution.
Yeah. Lando's new mining operation, post Cloud City, is this place called Nomad City, where it's a city literally made of Imperial remains, and it's so horrible and polluted and battle damaged that you can't breathe in there normally. It's a really, really fascinating idea. I don't know, I fucking loved that. Also, speaking of interesting ideas, though interesting for different reasons, Kashyyyk shows up in this book.
It does.
Much in the same way that Coruscant does, because... Actually, you know what? I was going to say the same way that Coruscant does, because, we knew about the planet, just hadn't really seen it. But no, we had seen Kashyyyk, and it's based on the Star Wars Holiday Special.
But, this is my favorite part. So, the short of it goes for... And all that needs to be brought up for context is Chewie and Leia are hiding there.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of going to Chewie's family's house, which he has,
Yep.
they go to a friend.
Jacob, this is 1991. You can't acknowledge the Star Wars Holiday Special.
But they acknowledge it by acknowledging, how it looks.
Do they, though? Because all you're really saying is that the Wookiees have a home planet that is a forest.
I guess, you know what, you're probably right. There are aspects,
Because really... The Kashyyyk we see in the Star Wars Holiday Special looks more like Endor than it does Kashyyyk in the prequels.
That's fair.
That treehouse place?
Yeah.
It looked more like
an
Ewok village.
Although, I do know that is still canon. Based off of the...
Oh, Chewie's treehouse?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
I do know it's still canon, though, because of that Life Day Treasury book.
Yeah. Isn't there a High Republic story in that?
There is.
That's right. Yeah.
It's on Coruscant with Stellan Gios.
Nice. Oh, that's lovely.
It's after he just got on the council. Not important for this conversation, but I wanted to let you know.
It should be. Anyway. Oh, man, you know what? Luke tells Leia about Dagobah for the first time.
Which is still probably true.
Which is another thing that you don't really consider. It's just like, oh yeah, Luke, finished his whole thing on Dagobah and just never told anyone where Yoda was. Because, it makes sense. Yoda's still in hiding. He wouldn't tell anyone about it. But he still, even after Yoda's death, never told anyone about it. Because I guess, I don't know, Yoda's importance as a Force ghost, possibly?
His purgatory spirit would have, could have been questioned.
Yeah. Speaking of Leia, I love the whole C-3PO as Leia thing.
That's a plan that 3PO constantly complains about.
It's a really funny bit, though.
I
loved it especially in the audiobook because it was Mark Thompson doing his Leia voice with a 3PO like filter put over it.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It was really funny.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it's just lovely. The idea of the Jedi hibernation trance. I really enjoyed that. That was a cool idea.
I think it makes enough sense. It feels like a natural...
It's probably still a thing, right?
It feels like a natural extension of just a Jedi just doing their thing.
Yeah. Do you think that's what Yoda does in the blinds room in the Jedi Temple? The room I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly.
Attack of the Clones is just filled with a bunch of blinds. Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't really be shocked if it was still a thing.
It could still be a thing. Yeah, definitely.
It feels like a thing that, if I saw it if I saw in the Ahsoka show, if I saw that happen, mm-hmm. I'd be like, sure.
Yeah. I liked Ralra, Leia's Wookiee friend.
Yes.
I thought that was fun. I thought they were cool. I love the way that actually on the audiobook again. I love the way that Mark Thompson sort of narrated those bits because it was more like it wasn't so much like you threw a Wookiee sound effect over it because Ralra has actual dialogue.
Yes.
So it's more like Mark Thompson is going hello Leia.
That's how it's. You have the book. You saw there's extra R's and stuff in his stuff.
It's just really really funny. Yeah, it was great.
I think what I really liked about their whole relationship when Leia meets him, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, oh, I can understand you. Don't tell me you've been talking with a speech impediment, Chewie, this whole time.
Yeah, it was great. I love that. Oh man, it was lovely. Let's get back to Thrawn for a little bit.
Yes, let's talk about Thrawn. One of the
Thrawn
main
again.
characters of this book.
Yeah. Seriously, like it's totally advertised as like his book anymore, but it's just like I don't know. He's not in as much as you would assume.
No, I mean he's in it enough to justify saying, "Oh, it's the introduction of Thrawn."
Yeah.
Like that does. If you were like, "Oh, this is the first book," if you sold this book as the idea of this is the first look at a non-main character Sith, like, and Jur Sabaoth isn't like not in like the second half of the book at all. Like that's a little more misleading.
Yeah. But yeah, the bit I want to specifically talk about here is when he kills that character Pieterson, which first off is just Piet with some extra syllables. So it's just like, all right, I see what you're doing there. But it's a really interesting scene because this guy fails at capturing Luke. He's like escaping and he's making his way to Talon Card. But Thrawn chooses to punish this officer that failed, Pieterson, because he sees this as an opportunity to make an example, and he realizes that his officers may not see him as threatening as Vader because he doesn't regularly kill all of his officers like Vader would. But he takes this as an opportunity to be like, okay, I'm gonna be more like Vader, to show them that like, yeah, this is still you guys are still under threat of death pretty much.
I want to tell you something funny. So, I read Heir to the Empire in a 20th anniversary edition. So it was before it was Legends.
Yeah.
So it also has annotations.
Uh-huh.
It's like literally the director's cut, as you put it.
Yeah.
There's an annotation for that scene.
Okay.
And it read that he wrote this part specifically to remind the audience Thrawn is supposed to be feared and not liked.
Yeah. Which is interesting, because I still like Thrawn as a character.
But it's not supposed to make, like, it's like kicking the puppy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's to remind the audience he is, in fact, the bad guy.
Yeah. Why would we forget that, though? That's so weird.
Maybe he felt he was coming off too sympathetic, too nice. I don't know. He doesn't really go.
So weird.
He doesn't really go into the explanation there. That's just.
Or is it possibly because Sabaoth could maybe seem like the bigger threat?
Maybe that's definitely possible.
So you may want to like keep Thrawn out of danger.
Maybe.
I know that's an interesting point, huh? All right then, huh? All right. Also with Thrawn is a character called Rook, who you did actually know before this.
Yes.
As most people actually would probably know him before this. As he is actually one of the characters from Legends brought over into Rebels. He's once again one of Thrawn's guards there. He's a cool character. He doesn't do too much in this game, but he is actually...
He is quite literally in the background most of the time.
If I remember correctly, he's a very important part of The Last Command.
That wouldn't really shock me.
So if I remember rightly, I think I am. So, anyway, Luke is captured by Talon Card, which is cool. And he meets Mara Jade, and I love their interactions. First off, because you know, knowing Mara Jade's reputation, you know where the relationship is going eventually.
So it's really interesting to see them paired up so hostily.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out she only really has quite the upper hand because there's this idea we haven't talked about yet: the force stopping animals.
I was just gonna bring them up actually. The Asalamiri. They're fascinating. They're literally these force blocker creatures, which I thought was really.
They create a bubble of non-force.
Yeah. Just really, really cool.
That's
stuff.
a concept that would, like, literally be impossible to impose on current continuity if my understanding is correct.
Yeah.
Because of midichlorians and stuff.
Very possible. Yeah.
Like, I would love to see the gymnastics to make it work.
I mean, man, there's probably a way. Someone's probably thought of it.
I remember when I first heard about them, I compared them to a High Republic idea.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is maybe, like, it's not obviously connected. I doubt that someone looked at this on the High Republic team. I was like, that, but real?
I mean, it could have some connection. It could have been the inspiration for it, but
possible. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, that to me feels like the most current canon idea that comes from this concept.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, actually, another really cool, just larger canon thing. Han and Lando pick up this guy called Tor from the Abrogado system, which is really cool. the system that shows up in the Malevolence arc, where Malevolence is hiding out in the Clone Wars.
Yes.
So that's just a nice little call out, and it's more interesting to think about like that when like they were making that episode of the Clone Wars, and Dave Filoni was like, oh yeah, let's use that system from the Thrawn trilogy, and not like the other way around, you know?
Yeah, which is probably how a lot of people would think about it nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because
I know, like when I saw it again, like this time around, when I saw it in the book, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, the thing from Clone Wars. I was like, wait, no, it's from this.
and this was still canon, kind of.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, seriously, that's so interesting because there's a good like 5-6 year period between like when that Clone Wars episode aired, and both that and Heir to the Empire were both canon.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Anyway, let's see. Oh yeah, Han is accused of cheating at Sabacc, which is fun. Sabacc, however you pronounce it. I think it's Sabacc actually. I've heard it both ways.
I usually say Sabacc personally, but I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's this whole like I mostly just really loved the whole scene when like when Han and Lando get in contact with Torv. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see. More Luke and Mara interactions that I have in my notes here, mostly about Mara's whole backstory being that she was at Jabba's palace.
And when that plan fails, the Emperor's like, all right, guess I'm going to go with Vader's plan.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Once again, just Thrawn treating his characters as so real and so steeped in this universe. It's what makes this work so well. I love that. We actually, I wanted to bring up Talon Karrde earlier, but we didn't really actually delve into it. We mostly just focused on Mara Jade. But Talon Karrde is interesting as well. He's one of those Hondo Ohnaka type characters that like you feel that because there's this interesting moment where like he meets up with Han and Lando, and then Thrawn is coming to his planet, and he realizes that he already made Han and Lando his guests, so he still has to honor and protect them from Thrawn, and that means lying to Thrawn, and that could get him in deep shit.
But he's already kind of hit one honor-bound area.
Yeah.
So he can't really break it.
Yeah. He's a really, really cool character. Did you enjoy him in this?
I thought he was probably one of the most interesting actually new characters.
Yeah.
And by actually new, I mean someone who doesn't go, oh, I was at the Battle of Endor. Yeah,
he is just a character that just exists here, and like you get the feeling that he's probably always been running around.
Sure, I definitely got the vibe he was doing his smuggling piracy information thing.
Well, actually, at the beginning of the book, they mentioned him pretty early on when Han is like, "Hey, who's in charge of the whole smuggling ring now?" They're like, "Oh, it's Talon Karrde," and Han's like, "Oh, okay, cool." He like he's aware of Talon Karrde,
right? Yeah,
already.
It gives a sense that he's been around, but not.
But in the same way that like they talk about Jabba in New Hope, you know? It's like, oh yeah, Jabba's a character out there. He's a guy that Han owes some money to. Okay, simple enough. I understand that.
Right. But it's not like a Mara Jade situation where they literally insert her into a scene.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just really, really cool. I love that. Oh man, right around that same time, Luke and R2's escape scene. I love that. When they get out of that cell, Luke is like, oh man, I need some piece of technology to escape from this cage. I
need to power the door. If only I had I imagine
Mark Hamill waving his arms around, his right hand directly in front of his face.
You could do like a POV shot, even like his hand looking at his hand, looking at the door.
Yeah. So few Star Wars media actually takes advantage of the fact that two of its major characters have robotic hands. Like, I don't know. We recently watched the Zillo Beast 2-parter.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, you get that little moment where like, oh yeah, there's the giant EMP grenade thing basically that kills all the droids. And Anakin's hand starts fucking up. It's like, oh yeah, actually that makes sense. I guess you don't consider that often.
Yeah, like it is cybernetic. It would still be affected by an EMP.
Every time those clones throw those droid poppers around, it's like, oh yeah, what if they get one just a little bit too close to Anakin? Okay, yeah, suddenly he can't fight with a lightsaber, you know?
Yeah, like it feels like a consequence not thought of.
Yeah.
And here, it is thought of.
Yeah.
Only after Luke goes through a whole chapter of trying to rig a plug up that isn't even powered on.
Yeah. Oh man, but then like Luke and Mara get like stuck together for like pretty much the rest of the book, and just the bitching. I love the bitch fest. It's so good. It's so fucking good. I have quoted the Weird Al Yankovic line from The Saga Begins. He's probably gonna marry her someday. Which, in the context of the Weird Al song, first off, listen to The Saga Begins. Beautiful song.
Highly recommended.
But he's talking about Anakin and Padme, before like Attack of the Clones came out, pretty much. And And yeah, that's this here. It's really funny. 'Cause yeah, you get the feeling already that they're like, they hate each other, but also, well, Mara hates him at least.
And I think
but there is like almost this sort of like flirtatious element to their interactions. It's fun.
Like, if she was less hostile, it would absolutely be that way.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that Luke is constantly like, hey, I can help. Hey, are you alright?
Yeah.
Hey, just give me 2 seconds, let me cut some tree branches down. And every time you cut to Mara's perspective, she's like, he's gonna kill me. He's gonna do this. He's gonna do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does he care about my ankle? Probably not.
Yeah. Oh man, I love it. Oh man, I gotta talk about the rest of that Leia interaction on Kashyyyk though. The negotiations with Kabarak.
Yeah.
Who specifically calls Leia Lady Vader.
This is after he tried killing her, but then sniffed her neck or something.
But just like, oh my god, what a beautiful interaction. I love that. And again, just like also just playing with that idea. Most people don't know that Luke and Leia are the children of Darth Vader.
No. Even in canon, that's a pretty well-guarded secret.
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things I love seeing explored. Especially in these like immediate post-Return of the Jedi stories. Thrawn immediately knows that Card is lying to him about New Republic officers being there, pretty much.
Yeah.
Just a cool idea.
Well,
again, Thrawn's just a fucking genius. It makes sense.
Well, the thing is, though, and as Timothy is very good at showing, Thrawn doesn't just know things. He puts them together.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like, once again, having finished Ahsoka, it just finished coming out at the time of recording this, like, you see... Like just I don't know, just how these characterizations like so directly influence each other, but are still somewhat distinctive.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really
like
cool.
I said, rough draft, PhD.
Yeah.
But I mean, but there are little things that hold true for both when Thrawn has to improvise, for example.
Yeah, totally. And then in regards to Thrawn, when like Luke and Han are reunited again, Luke's like Han. I forget who tells who about Thrawn. But somebody's like, one of the Imperial Grand Admirals?
I think it's Han to Luke. Because he would have been the only one to actually know about him.
Yeah, and they're like, I thought we accounted for like all the Imperial Grand Admirals. The New Republic like pretty much like tried them all. And they're like, well, I guess we just kind of missed one, didn't we? And now that we missed one, the one guy that happened to be their best Grand Admiral.
That's how you missed them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and again, another thing that makes sense. It's like, oh yeah, after the fall of the Empire, they started like taking count of all these Imperial officers. Oh, they missed Thrawn. Oh, that makes sense. Thrawn's a fucking genius. That's so like built into the DNA of his character that like you don't question that really. It makes sense.
He's smart, but like I was saying, he puts things together, which is crucial. He doesn't just know things because Timothy Zahn needs him to know things.
Yeah.
Thrawn is constantly walking Pelion through his thought process, which is smart.
Yeah. Actually, we barely talked about Captain Pelion. I love Captain Pelion.
He is such a fun, know-nothing character.
Like, seriously, what I love especially about him is, like, he's sort of our eye into the original trilogy when comparing himself to Thrawn. Because he's, another one of those characters that Thrawn inserts into the trilogy at various points. But he was like one of the officers specifically at the Battle of Endor. He saw the fall of Vader's Star Destroyer. He saw the destruction of the second Death Star.
And when that happened, the fleet suddenly performed better.
Yeah.
Which has interesting implications that might or might not be canon still.
Yeah. But no, like it's a really cool idea, and it makes Pelion's interactions with Thrawn really, really fascinating. I just wanted to mention that he's just a cool character. And also just a lot of the reason that there's more friction in the Thrawn-Sabayoth relationship. Yeah, it's cool.
Mostly because Thrawn could have it, but he'd probably let him do whatever.
Yeah.
Within reason.
Yep. You also called out to me because you were, like we said, you were reading the 20th anniversary edition. That there was a point when Zahn wanted to end the book, but he was basically told by editorial, like, you got to keep going. You need like a big battle to end the story on. And so you can so tell the last 2 chapters are this really just obligatory final Star Wars spaceship battle that we have to have at the end of the movie.
Yeah, like he wanted to end it after everything is pretty much said and done.
Mm-hmm.
Like things are kind of relaxing down. The book is coming to a natural conclusion.
Yeah. And then like, she's like, oh, we gotta go to these shipyards, the Sluice Van shipyards, and we gotta fight there because because.
But that would have been just the start of the next book.
Mm-hmm.
But,
I wonder if it would have though, because having reread it now, it's just it does feel a little just like shoved in there.
And I just thought it was interesting that Timothy Zahn's like, I got a great book, and Disney, and not Disney, and Lucas.
Well, that would be more like Del Rey. Not Del Rey. Bantam Books. That's who was publishing.
Bantam Books.
Mm-hmm.
Bantam Books was like, that's great, but not really.
Is it Star Wars if we don't have a ship battle you can't fucking follow at the end? Is
it is the ship battle is a bit all over the place.
Yeah. That said though, I did love Captain Affian. The dude that just hates X-Wing pilots and Wedge Antilles. I thought that was fucking great.
So funny.
I love that guy. He was awesome. And then, like, Thrawn knows when to retreat, and he gets out of there.
But it's earlier than he wanted to.
Yeah.
Which is where where my reference to him improvising comes from.
Yeah.
Like, he's clearly uncomfortable with it,
mm-hmm.
but he knows if this keeps up, his plan might as well be done.
Yeah. And we end the book on such an interesting note that I love. Leia gets back in contact with Luke and Han and tells them that Admiral Akbar has been arrested on charges of treason, which is so big.
Presumably because of the ship battle thing.
Yeah, which is so big for having happened off screen pretty much.
Right? Because of, the one guy. Phalia, yeah. There's a spy. We didn't even mention there's a spy.
There is a spy.
I don't know who it is. It's either Phalia or Winter, and you don't remember who.
I forget who it is, to be honest.
My money is on Winter, though.
It probably is. I forget, honestly.
Mostly because I noticed through the book when Leia and Winter were together, and like some very short period of time would happen off screen,
mm-hmm.
and then the Empire would know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I gotcha. That makes sense. But yeah, honestly, I forget who it is. But yeah, that is Heir to the Empire. Heir to the Empire. That was that. Yeah, actually, that was about as long as I expected it to be. Yeah, 2 hours, over 20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, not bad. All right, solid, fun talk. I'm a little tired now, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm good, though. I had a good time.
I thought I had a great time talking about Star Wars, a thing I love.
Yes, and we're going to do plenty more of that. So, what do we do? Do we want to say what we're doing next time, or are we leaving that a mystery?
I'll leave that up to you.
I don't know what to do.
Maybe...
Leave it a mystery.
Let's leave it a mystery outside of the comics.
Yeah, because they already know what we're doing with the comics. So yeah, we'll leave it a mystery. You're choosing our book next time.
I am.
And we're watching something that neither of us have seen before, which is Star Wars.
Super rare.
Yeah, so that'll be really fun, yeah. So can't wait to do that. That'll be really fun.
That'll be massively interesting. I can't wait.
Yeah, seriously. Thank you all so much for watching. This has just been really nice. I'm really excited to just do more of this in the future. It's gonna be awesome. I hope at least.
I hope. Yeah.
I had a great time with this.
Should be.
Though. Yeah. Also, I want to give a huge thanks to the Octo Reaper on Instagram and Twitter for our wonderful artwork for this series. Look at that shit. Look at those beautiful bastards. And for R2-BD himself, who I love down there. Look at him. Oh, he's wonderful. So yeah, thank you all so much for your support. Clearly for the artwork that we got done for this, we're very excited about it. And also, seriously, go. I'll leave both Instagram and Twitter link for Octo Reaper down in the description below. She's the one that does our Star Trek drawings as well. So,
yes.
Yeah, she's wonderful. So yeah, seriously, be sure to check her out and her wonderful work. But yeah, wow, that's that.
Yeah, I guess that does it.
That is it. Wow, cool. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. This is Joey Morgan,
Jacob,
and we're brothers. We never mentioned that. We're brothers.
Yes.
We grew up together.
So when we say we have a collective memory of Star Wars, that is absolutely true.
Wow. That's where we're at. Okay. Now this is Joey Morgan.
I'm Jacob.
And R2-BD signing off.